My glasses on.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Morning,
Morning,
good afternoon, wherever you're at.
Mhm.
just afternoon.
Yeah, I think it's nighttime for Surmud.
It's about 5
Yeah,
15 p.m.
nice,
Yeah.
nice. Well, welcome in, everybody. A lot of new names, a lot of familiar faces as well, which is cool. If you're new to this call, every Saturday we have a feedback and critique session. So it's, formally it's a group critique because we're all here as a group. And so if you want to, you can definitely always give your own feedback if you see something that I'm not saying. The way it works is in the chat down below. You can open up the chat bar, and then in the chat where you type in your words, usually there's a little button there you can file upload a piece of your artwork, something you've been working on previously, yesterday, today, a year ago, doesn't matter, whatever you want feedback on. So you upload it in there, and then I'll put it into my onto my screen, and we'll look at it together, and we'll make some modifications, or we'll leave it the way it is if it's looking really good. Just to get some new eyes on it, right? Everybody kind of works alone in their studios, and for the most part, our feedback is from friends and family that says, "It's wonderful. I can't draw a straight line." Well, you're in a group of people who can draw straight lines, so the feedback will be a little bit. Uh, so surrounding yourself with artists who all have the eye of an artist is really helpful to get some feedback in that way. So, yeah. Um,
It should be like, hey, I can't even draw a curved line because for a straight line, you can just use a ruler.
yeah,
You know, it's the curved lines, right?
yeah. Curved lines are way harder. Yeah. You got to get the protractor out and a compass. Yeah, looks like somebody's already uploading some stuff. And then also, I think uh, Joan emailed me her stuff, which is cool. So I have a couple things we can look at already, which is great. Let me just get them uploaded here.
I don't have anything particularly to show, but I just wanted to say something about the reels that I've been posting.
Sure.
If
Yeah, we can talk about that real quick. I think there's other people here probably that also do social
yeah,
media in some way.
I don't know if other people know about this, but you have a brilliant course on how to do social media,
Yeah,
which I
thanks.
begged you to do, not just because of me you did it, because there were so many other
Yeah.
people also
Yeah, you
asking
were
me.
one of the driving forces for
I
sure.
was like, please. So you know, I would call it a one-stop shop. I mean, I still go and listen to other people for momentum, but I always come
Mhm.
back to the kind of things you were saying. And I'm refining my uh sort of reels and
Mhm.
connecting them to the kind of things I'm particularly teaching. And there's always overlaps in art teaching, but mine is more on focus because of my ADHD and the kind of things I've achieved. That's the kind of focus I have on it.
Mhm.
And the last few reels, especially one of the last ones, has got a lot of attention. I started seeing like follow back things, in my feed, and suddenly I'm like, what? And because of you showed about ManyChat and how to connect that, and so I did that as well. So there were a lot of people typing those words, and then suddenly I'm like, am I seeing Sean's feed or my feed? Obviously
Yeah.
it's not as amazing as yours, but it was like, oh, okay, this is how it happened. So I wanted to thank you
Yeah, that's
for
great. Yeah, I've actually been seeing
for
your
your
videos.
insights.
They look like they're becoming more stylized in your own way and your own voice, and that's good. So,
Yeah.
yeah, just got to keep at it and keep pushing
Yeah.
in
So
more content.
yeah. No, so I just wanted to say that. And for other people who don't know, they can also check that course out of yours. And
Thank you.
it's
Appreciate
working.
that.
It's working. Yeah, it's working.
Yeah, it definitely has everything that I've done to grow my following. Like it's all the tools and methods and formats that I've used. So,
And one of the
thank you.
things I did was to repurpose one of the videos. And I think you said it last time, like, the videos that you have your face in, they do a little bit better because
Hmm.
people like to connect. So I actually put my face in the beginning and repurposed the older video, and that goes into the drawing thing.
Yep.
And it did better.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
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 People like to see who the artist is for sure. Yeah. Cool.
Cool.
All right. Let me share my screen here. And we have some drawings already ready and set up to go. Um, looks like we have Joan first here. So Joan's been doing figure drawing at a an art center or an art group where they have a live model. Looks like this is a 25-minute drawing, and yeah, it looks really cool. I'm enjoying this already. Um, Joan, are you here? Yes. Can't see you. There you are. Do you want to say anything about it before I jump in, Joan? You're muted. Looks like she's having trouble unmuting herself. Phil asks in the chat, does it matter what type of art? No, you can post whatever you'd like, whatever you want feedback on. Um, I think Joan's having some technical issues, but I'll just start. So figure drawing, one of the most challenging things anybody can ever try to do. So good job, especially from life. I think it's really great practice to have. If anybody has the opportunity here to go do it, this is just for everybody. Like if there's an art group or an art center or anything like that that does live figure drawing and it's, within your budget and you have the time to do it, go do it. It's incredibly helpful to learn how to draw. So for this drawing, um, the first thing I usually look at is just proportions in general. I think that the proportions are really like they start out good. The head size, the rib cage size is pretty close. I think that this area in here, let me change my pen here so I can see it. From where the hips are to where the clavicle is, I think that this is a little bit too long compared to the length of the leg. It's hard because the leg is bent, and usually we see the figure standing up and we can see the whole length and we can kind of measure it that way. So when I look at something like this, what I do is I kind of zoom out in my mind's eye with the whole thing and kind of look at the visual weight of each of the parts. And when I really zoom out, I look at the center of the torso. The legs, especially this bent one in the front, just feels a little bit short and it doesn't feel like it's the right length in comparison to the torso. Uh, in proportions, a body is usually 7 heads in length. And so the head isn't completely visible here, but I can imagine where it would go because this the way that's drawn here. I'd imagine the head probably goes to here, in the drawing that you have. So if this is the head right here, um, I think that you've elongated the body and then shortened the legs. It'll probably end up being 7 heads, but the distribution of those heads is a little off. Um, so it'd probably be that there's something somewhere in this midsection, like in here, that you want to shorten and like kind of crunch together a little bit more. I think that there's like, let's say this is the last rib right here, right? And then this is the hip, like the actual pelvis bone, right? This gap here is too large. The gap between the bottom rib and the top of the pelvis is actually between three and four of our fingers. Like if you can feel it on yourself even as a test. Like you can only fit about 3 fingers in there between the bottom rib and where the top of your hip bone is. And in here you can see the gap. You can almost fit her entire head in there, right? Or at least a part of it. So I think that's the midsection that you kind of stretched and elongated. Completely natural, honestly. It happens a lot in that area because there isn't as many landmarks in there. Like a lot of the times we can use the bony landmarks of the hip or the end of the rib cage, but then in there it's kind of soft and it becomes stretched a little bit. Um, so I think if you crunch that down, it would probably make the leg not feel as short. I think there's also something happening here in the foot where the foot is becoming a little flat a little bit too quickly. Like you have this slant coming down and it kind of goes to a point. And the toes are fairly thin, but I would probably give it a little bit more just to kind of make it feel like it has a little bit more to it, more to the foot. You can see when I zoom out now and look at the foot, just having that line there, it makes the foot feel a little bit more solid. That is also very common, and you can see it. So the very common thing for figure drawing at the beginning is small hands, small wrist, small feet, small ankles, and so you can see the same thing here, right? Small wrist, small hand, and here you can't see the wrist, but you can see these fingers are fairly small, like compared to the size of the stomach, right? If you put your hand on your stomach, right, you can cover up almost half of, at least if this person is this size, you can fit up, it fills up about half the size of the stomach. So the hand would probably be more like this size, right? and then you'd have the thumb kind of like sitting like this, right? So that's very, very common, is to make those things small. And that same thing happens here with the ankle here at the back, right? It the the calf down to the, let me just put a straight line here. It's a big cylinder, right? And then there's musculature on top, which is the calf muscle, right? Um, I don't think it gets to be that small. So if I remove this, it's oftentimes because we don't put enough attention to the actual ankle. And so the ankle kind of creates this beautiful kind of like C shape. And then the back of the heel sticks up into there. So there's kind of like this interlocking that happens, which is really cool. And then the heel, right, creates this. And so we want to really start to see this as like a geometry. And so the foot would be a little bit bigger up here. Then you have this curve of the arch of the foot, like that. And then the toes would be out here like this. So you can see how just a little bit bigger, right, makes it feel a little bit better. Um, Other than that, so proportions aside, I think the shading, for 25 minutes, you did really good. You have a great sense of light coming down, shadow underneath. I wouldn't really change too much about that, especially in a 25-minute pose. You're definitely getting way better. So she's been bringing these every week for the past, like, I don't know, 5, 6 weeks since we started doing this. And the 25-minute drawings before were barely shaded, right? They were, you know, she was really struggling with the proportions and getting the thing on there. And so now she has a fully, rendered figure in 25 minutes. So she's speeding up. She's starting to understand what 25 minutes actually feels like. Um, So it looks like she typed in chat because she can't get her voice to work. So she said, actually, I measured her head in person and she was 7.5 heads. Yeah. So people are set between 7 and 8 heads usually. Perfect. Other than that, that's the main thing. So like, so the rendering looks really nice. So this is another tip for everybody here. Before we move to rendering, most important thing is to make sure all of the construction and the measurements are really accurate to the initial drawing, right? Because we do the line drawing first, we figure out where everything's going to be, we lay out our map, and then we start to do the shading. Well, if the things are, a little stretched here, a little small there, and then we do the shading, then afterwards we realize, oh wait, the shit, some stuff's off. Well, you just spent, 25 minutes shading, so or 20 minutes shading. Right, spend that extra couple minutes just to make sure your things are right on point, and then it'll make it a much more solid drawing. Joan,
I
looks
think
like you got your thing.
I think I got
You got
unmuted
it. You
finally.
got unmuted. There you go. Welcome.
Sorry, yeah, like it
It's
was
okay.
not, microphone wasn't on in my settings, so I
Oh, okay.
got it fixed. But yeah, so thank you. That's very helpful. Um, I I find it a lot easier to do the 7 heads when the person isn't bent in some
Yeah.
fashion. So that's kind of what I'm working on. Like I noticed that when the person is standing or lying straight out,
Hmm.
then I have more success with this. Like I actually draw 7 circles. Like I draw the head and then I draw 6 more circles
Hmm.
or ovals or whatever. And but then I just find it hard to figure it out when you go up the leg and down the leg again.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that you can do is, let me pull up the picture of the measurements here. Um, is you can use certain points to, man, where is it? Facial features, figures. Sorry, I'm trying to find the picture. Um,
Yeah, I know the one you mean. I
yeah,
can
yeah,
never
we've looked at it before.
remember how many circles are make up the legs. And I knew that the legs were too short, but
Here's this one because it's
I
from.
actually extended the leg, but then yeah, that doesn't really work because the torso's too long.
Yeah, this one's pretty good. This one's also pretty good here.
And I actually measured her in the classroom. I measured her head with a ruler. She let me do this. And I measured, and she was actually like more like 7.5 heads
Yeah.
because she was so tall. And so I think that's what happened. I made her torso
Hmm.
longer because she was tall, but then
Yeah, that
I don't know.
happens.
I didn't make her.
Yeah.
I didn't get 7.5 heads even.
Yeah. So what you can do is actually, let me pull this up over here.
So it's 3 heads from the top of the thigh,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. So there's little points where you can measure down to or measure from as well. So the top of the pelvis that I was talking about, that's the ASIS, the anterior superior iliac spine. Silly
Yep.
name. It's the bony landmark where the top of the pelvis sits,
Excuse me.
right? It's like right below the belly button.
Yep.
And so that's 3 heads down. So
Oh, okay.
if you're going here, right, you can measure three
ASIS.
heads from here, and that's going to be,
Too far, yeah.
right around here, right? And then you can measure from the groin, the bottom of the groin, down to the knee, right? It's 1.5 heads, right? So you can break it up that way
Okay.
too, just by knowing where the halfway points are, right? The halfway point is typically right where the groin is, right in that area. Um,
Okay.
and so if your figure is bent, then you just put the head there and you just say, okay, well, from here to the knee or here to the foot, right? So you just move the heads along that pace. That'll work too. Um,
Okay.
right? So you just measure from here to here and then here to here using or to the bottom of the foot, I would say.
Okay. Yeah,
Yep.
I wasn't sure if it still worked like that when
Yeah,
they were
definitely still works.
bent
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. So
Okay.
from the top of the knee, like right through the knee to the bottom, very bottom of the foot, it's 2 heads typically. Like I said before, every time I say this, every person's very different. Every body is a little bit different. So,
Sure.
but just use the measurement of their head. It usually works. Some people have really big heads. Some people have small heads. It's just the way it is. So each individual person gets their own little proportions measured out. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you recommend um like putting those 7 head, like measuring it out, and like, I feel like, okay, it's 25 minutes. I got to get this drawing done.
Yeah.
And so then I always think, well, I'm taking too much time on the prep, but
Hmm.
it it really does. It's really hard to tell whether the proportions are right
Yeah.
when it's just a really light, like
Yeah.
I just try to do a really light sketch first.
Yeah. That's true.
You don't mind if I watch that in whites? You cool?
So yeah, okay.
Um,
But I'll try that. I just have
so
to be a little more
w-
accurate.
Okay.
for the 25 minutes, try to set a goal for yourself. Right? Is the goal to create a shaded drawing like that looks like this with white and midtones and lights, or is the goal
Mhm.
to really get down the proportions, right? So
Yes.
when you start to shade, you're practicing shading. When you're just drawing the construction and the
Okay.
proportions, you're practicing those things. So
Right.
I don't know how many poses you do within the thing that are actually 25 minutes, but um, what if you
Yeah,
spent
two or
25
three.
minutes,
Yeah.
right? So what if you spent the first one, the entire 25 minutes just on proportions and construction, and you made everything just look, like the
Okay.
the size of everything and the placement of everything was just right on.
Like a
And
construction drawing kind of, and
yeah, yeah,
not worry
like
about getting it too.
if you spent the full 25 minutes on that, you're going to be
Okay.
spending 25 minutes on learning specifically that and really focusing in on that.
Yeah.
When you split it up into these multiple things, you're spending 5 minutes on construction and
Yeah.
proportions, and you're spending, 10 minutes on just slight modifications and starting to shade, and then you're spending another 10 minutes on the highlights and the little fine details like the belly buttons and things like that.
Okay,
Um,
good point. Yeah, that's a
right?
really good point.
So just make a goal for each of the poses because in your class that you're taking, it's not too guided as far as like workshopping and things like that.
No,
So you
but
can kind
yeah,
of
the
take that on
host does
yourself.
give some guidance,
Right.
and other people that have been doing it a long time are kind of trying to help other people in that when we ask questions of them. But
Hmm.
for the
Hmm.
most part, like the host of the thing has told me after this one, he said, "You have improved so quickly." And so
Good.
I'm like, "Oh, thanks for the
Yeah, you
encouragement."
definitely have. You definitely have. Yeah, from
Okay,
the first
but
ones you
that's
were
a good
sending through.
point. Yeah,
Yeah.
just
So
work on one
yeah, so think
part
of
of it.
think of yourself as
Cons-
your own teacher in a way too. So when you go in,
yes.
kind of make a curriculum for yourself. Think, okay, well
Yep.
you're going to do the gestures, all that stuff. When you go into your first long pose, maybe the first one can be purely about this, the second one can be
Okay.
about a mixture of both, and then maybe the last one can be, about something else. It just really depends on what you want to learn.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would
Thanks.
suggest.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank
and
you.
then you have one more drawing here. We'll do this one. I think this one can be a little quicker because it's I mean, it's beautiful. So I don't think there's really much to be said about this one, which is
Okay.
cool. She included the reference photo for us, which is nice. So alongside figure drawing, Joan's also doing these like 30 days of drawing these black and white photos with pencil, just purely working on value and tone and
Mhm.
trying to get, these large value shapes to represent the image without, you know, thinking of it as a silo in a barn. She's just thinking, okay, large rectangular dark shape, right? She's just thinking large shapes and putting them where they're supposed to go. Um, like I said, there's not really much I could say about this. I think that you lightened the tree to make it appear more maybe against the dark of the barn behind it. But the,
Yeah.
the tree is definitely darker as far as like the actual
Yes.
leaves go down here. If we're just
I
doing a value
I
study,
actually concluded that myself, and I just haven't got
good.
around. But yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
especially up in that top, like the
Yeah.
far right side of it is definitely in the shadow.
Up here and then down in here,
Yes.
it's really where it gets lost in here because it really starts
Yeah.
to blend into the,
Yep.
let me zoom down on this. It starts to really blend into the barn behind it, which is kind of a challenge to do as an artist because it's like,
Yeah.
how much do I want to separate those things? And can I take my
Hmm.
artistic liberty to do that? You definitely can.
Yep.
And in the picture, it's like I still understand what's happening, but there's like some ambiguity a little bit about like where
Yeah.
things
I
start.
liked that.
Is there another plant right here too? It's like hard to tell. Like looks like there's another
I
root
know. I
system
couldn't
going
tell
in
if
or a
there
stump.
was two. I
Yeah.
was gonna go back and examine it a little closer because I couldn't tell
Yeah.
if
Yeah, it's one
there
of those
was a
things
bush
where
there.
yeah, it's one of those things where if it's awkward looking and hard to understand in the picture, it's going to be even
Yeah.
harder and awkward looking in the drawing. And so that's often like one of those things where like the reference photo really leads you, astray sometimes. If you like match it too closely, then it's like, does it work? Does the image read properly in a drawing? It just kind of changes. Um, and
Hmm.
so sometimes when I see something like that, I just think, okay, well, maybe I just get rid of that part. And maybe I have the tree just end over the roof where it's dark against light. I take the artistic liberty and say, okay, we'll just remove that. Just like, let's imagine we're lumberjack. We just remove that tree, that part of that tree, trim it down. And now we have this beautiful shape of the barn. And
Uh,
instead we have an overlap right here. And the overlap is just going over the roof, this dark against light. It looks beautiful. And
mhm.
then that's the drawing, right? I know that you're doing a really intense study of value and what you're seeing, so it makes sense
Mhm.
that you ended up in this way. Just a thought though, like when a reference photo is
Yeah.
awkward, then maybe it's time to actually make a change as the artist to just make it look better. Because sometimes the
Mhm.
photograph just isn't the best photograph that it could be, right? It's very
Mhm.
possible.
No, he does
Um,
actually encourage us to do that too,
good.
to use your artistic license and
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. If it makes a better
adjust
picture,
it.
then it's usually the right choice. It's hard to
Hmm.
detach from the reference photo though in that way. It's like you're like studying it
All
and
right.
it's telling you what to do, but then
Hmm.
you have to kind of just make the call.
No, but that's next level too, is just figuring out. But like, I think it's something right at this point that I would have to do
So,
it all over again
so
because
what?
I don't think I could correct that.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't go back in and correct it. But can you just draw again where you would say eliminate stuff? Like just
Yeah.
all the,
That's not really helpful. So, I mean, what I would think is like the tree branch comes down and then it
that's
just kind of overlaps the white part of the barn and it comes back up and then you just get rid of all this extra other stuff down here.
okay.
All the way down. I mean, maybe this tree down here could be its own little thing where it like kind of
A
sticks
bush,
up,
yeah.
and maybe that you
Yep,
could separate it with those light marks that you have. But I think the
yep.
connection between the two makes it more ambiguous because like, is this tree coming down and growing into the ground again? It's hard.
It's a
That
very
doesn't happen,
strange looking
right?
tree. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
Yep. I get
Hmm.
it. All right.
But other than that, beautiful. I love the rows of crops too. That always
Yeah,
creates a like sense of
yeah,
depth. Go ahead.
I was a little more careful with the furrows this time, and I like the result.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Some people in the chat
Okay.
said the drawing is very nice, so that's good.
And I also worked on my perspective lines better than last, because the last one you were you were pointing out that some
Yeah,
of
that
my
one had
perspective.
a really deep, perspective going in, whereas this one is a little bit flatter. The building's kind of just facing you, so
Yeah,
it's kind of just
straight on.
straight on,
Hmm.
and then there's a little perspective in this part of the building right here,
Should, yeah, yeah.
right?
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it looks really nice. It's very beautiful. I'm
Thank you,
excited to see
Sean.
the other, the next 15 of them. It's gonna be cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, so this is the
Thank you.
next drawing. You're very welcome. The next one is by Kylie. That's you. Yep.
Yep.
Um, cool. So you're doing spheres now. I've
Yeah.
kind of been following along. You came to a couple other calls, right, where you were showing some line work and things like that, which is cool. Looks like you're moving on to spheres. So spheres are really important to learn how to draw. I commend you for even trying this. Most people are just like, that's boring. I don't want to do that. Um,
I
but yeah,
want to
this looks
get
really
the
good.
basics down
Mhm.
a little bit better. I
Yeah.
mean, I do a lot of other drawing too for fun, but
Hmm.
the I mean, I'll take whatever feedback, but I guess one of the things is that I'm really like my drawings with spheres or other things with like either pencil or like colored pencil or like doing watercolor paint and stuff. I
Okay.
feel like I can get the shadows and like the curvatures and shape a lot better than when I'm trying to do it with a line pen.
Yeah.
And so if there's any feedback on what I'm doing with the line pen, because I'd really like to be able to just do sketching where it's just I've got a pen,
Hmm.
notebook, and like capture that a little bit better.
Yeah.
Um, so that's why I was trying to do like the same thing with kind of both. So
Hmm.
yeah, anything specific on that would be great, and then obviously
Okay.
any feedback.
Yeah. So I mean, it's always like this. Drawing in pencil is, especially with spheres and rounded forms, way easier than using a pen and cross-hatching
Yeah.
because, well, it's just pressure sensitivity, right? It
Mhm.
press harder, darker, press less, it's lighter, and then you just round the sphere out. With ink, there's not really much pressure sensitivity. The ink just kind of flows, and it's more about like kind of speed of mark and direction of mark, and where you leave ink and where you don't have ink. So the spheres, there's the ones in pencil. I think they're a little more successful in this one here, and then maybe this one over here. That's the blue one.
Mhm.
So the reason I like this one more is because you have uh, right, you have a highlight right in here, and
Mhm.
then I would probably make a little bit more of a transition between the highlight and this, like maybe another ring. So try to think of it as like concentric rings. You have the highlight,
Mhm.
right? You have the next kind of tone, which is like the lit up area. Then you start to transition into like a half tone, which is kind of like in here where the light starts to roll off of the sphere. And then you actually go into shadow, right? Which there's going to be an edge where the light terminates and it goes into shadow, which is usually where what we like to call is the core shadow, which is right here. You have that. It's kind of like this
Mhm.
band that goes across.
Yep.
Um, and then the reflected light, right? So light is bouncing off the table and hitting up here and lighting that area up. So that's why I think that this one is most successful. You have those things in there.
Mhm.
Um, so one of the things that I always talk about with pen is like the direction of your mark really helps to create the roundness, right? That's really the only way to
Mhm.
really do it. You can actually do the same thing with graphite, even though you're shading it. If you keep your marks kind of moving along the sphere, you're kind of like think about like you're sculpting the sphere with your pencil marks. It'll add more roundness to it too. So imagine if we look like really closely at these marks, you can see that there's kind of some, there's lines. I can see the lines. There's lines going this way. There's lines going that way. Right? There's some lines going this way, like this. There's some
Mhm.
squiggles in here, so that when you're adding the marks to the sphere, because you're going in a bunch of different directions. When you go in different directions, your hand naturally just pushes a little harder here, pushes lighter this way, and so what happens is you end up having this kind of surface texture that's not uniform, right? It could, especially with graphite or like a dry medium, you can get a really smooth transition from light to dark. Like
Mhm.
you can get tiny movements in value.
Yeah.
And so I think that if you can even just choose one direction and just go, okay, I'm really good at diagonal marks and just do the whole thing with diagonal marks. And where you need it lighter, you press lighter and you do diagonal. And then when you go to the darker area, you press really hard and you get your diagonal marks, your darks, right?
Mhm.
So that would help just in general with the mark making because I like when you zoom out, you don't see those things as much. Like when you zoom out to back here, you don't see those textures, right? You just see the sphere. And that's good. The
Mhm.
sphere is reading from far away, but artwork is always seen from multiple points of view. So it's seen from here, like when it's across the room. Let's say there's a painting of a sphere on the wall,
Mhm.
and then it's like the painting's really far away. Then you start to walk down the hallway, like, oh, that's beautiful. I want to go look at it. And then eventually the person comes up and goes like this, and they look at it like that, right? I mean, everybody's kind of done
Mhm.
that in a museum or gallery, right? So we want to make sure that each range of reading on our sphere or on whatever we're drawing has, a visibility that makes us feel good, let's say.
Mhm.
And so when I get closer and closer, I start to see some of those timidness. I would call it timidness in your mark. You're not sure exactly how to place your marks. And so the best way to just fix that is to just choose one direction of line of mark making, or maybe two or three, and just keep it to that if you're really trying to go into like, sculpting the form. Um, it just creates harmony. Okay. And so when we look at the spheres that are in ink, right, you did that here, right? All verticals, right? It starts to create a harmony. It doesn't necessarily like yell at me sphere and more just as like shaded in circle. But then you add these secondary marks up here that are curved, and that starts to make me feel like it's rounded. So you're kind of doing here. So imagine if you, and I think actually this one feels a little better too. Like it feels like most of the marks are going in this direction,
Mhm.
and then maybe some stuff around the edges to kind of not, doing a mark this way and hitting a circular edge is hard. So here you start to follow the edge more, which makes more sense. This is really like closely looking at your marks. So
Mhm.
it's very like close feedback. So this is the sphere that I would say is one of the most successful as far as the ink drawing, because you've chosen the singular direction, and then you're using a secondary direction to create the core shadow. And when we're looking at a sphere, that's what we want to see, right? When we zoom out, the reason that the ones that look like the most like spheres look like that is because you have that core shadow looks like a band, and then you have the reflected light, the highlight, midtone, right? All that stuff's happening. And so if
Mhm.
you can hit those marks in your sphere, especially when you zoom out, right? These ones, it's a little too small. These ones start to feel more round and sphere-like. This one up here, where you have the core shadow kind of falling off, there's no reflected light at all, right? It starts to flatten, right? You can see that. I
Mhm.
think you can see that. And then this one here, it's really distinct how the core shadow is kind of like you even like outlined it, right?
Yeah.
Um,
That was the first one I did. I was just like, okay, highlight, core shadow. These are
yeah,
the things
good,
that are gonna be there.
good. Yeah. Um, these ones are good too. I think you could probably take like a kneaded eraser and pull back some of this,
Mm, okay.
like pull back some of this a little bit, and like, yeah, act as if I'm erasing here. Right? You can see how if you transition that from light into maybe like that, yeah, you can start to see that this kind of like beautiful nuance that you can get in the sphere,
Okay.
that, and then and then the thing is with when you change one thing, it tells you like, okay, well maybe I can change something else, which tells me that maybe this area could be darker
Mhm.
just by a little bit, something like that, maybe even darker. And then we zoom out on it. All right, now it's starting to really feel
Yeah.
spherical. If I go back from where it was, right,
Yeah.
to here, right, whoa, right,
Hmm.
very rounded, and it's the nuance in this light area, right? You really want to
Okay.
from the highlight to where it starts to go into there's the highlight. It's like a specular highlight. It's like literally the light that's hitting it is reflecting directly off, so you're like seeing the light bulb in the thing. That's the highlight. And then
Hmm.
everything else around that is just the lit up area. And the lit up area, unless the ball is gray, right? it would probably be just the white of the paper. And so you create this nice transition into the core shadow, right? It rolls off. Let me pull up my handy dandy picture of a sphere. All right, this is digitally done, but pretty close in here. I have some better ones actually. That one's not too good. Okay, this is a really good example. I found this online a while back. It's some atelier somewhere. So you can see how even the pencil marks have a hatching to them. Like right, you can see how the lines, let me see, over here are going this way. Oop, can't really see that. Lines are going this way, and then over here they're going this way, right? That's they're wrapping around the sphere, right? And then over here, right, they're like this, right? They're wrapping, everywhere is wrapping around the sphere. So it's like they're taking their pen and they're like just like they're following the form of the ball everywhere. Right here, they're more straight, right? So they're doing cross contour hatching even in a pencil drawing. And
Yeah.
they could take their their smudging tool and smudge them all together if they wanted to. And even if they did, those marks would still kind of be there, and it would still create more of that form. Um, yeah. And so you can really see here though how light it is in this whole lit up area. Like there's really not much graphite material on the paper until it starts to roll over into the dark right around here. And then the core shadow is like really dark, right? So they have that nice transition. And then when we zoom out on this, right, looking at it close up is like, oh, it's beautiful. But when we really zoom out, right, it's like, whoa, that's like a photo. It's like, holy crap, that looks really real. Um, and that's, I mean, another thing, everybody here, step back on your artwork, like step away from it and look at it from a distance. When you're looking at it like this, like you can't really tell what's working and what's not. When we move back, this is what I'm doing here. This is the same thing, right? You just step away, you make it smaller. The further you get away from it, the smaller it gets. And all of those textural details go away, and you start to see, is the form actually reading? That's what this is doing. It's like, is the form reading as a form? Is it doing what it's supposed to be doing? And then as we get closer and closer, we can start to work on the texture and the actual quality of the marks. But the most important thing is this, right? So yeah, that's the sphere. As far as the mark making goes on the lines of like these ones here, um, drawing. I mean that was actually a pretty good example of how you would do it. These marks here, like just really following the form as much as you can, right? Really seeing it this way. Right, through the center, it's more straight. And you can see they curve this way on this side and they curve that way on this side. So they're kind of like parentheses. And as they move towards the center, they become straighter and straighter because the center's looking at you, so it doesn't have a curve, right? Um, and and so the difference between this sphere and this sphere is that this one's much larger too. So look at how many marks they can fit across, right? They fit hundreds of marks from end to end. There's like hundreds of these lines. Here you only can fit 15 or 20. So you're limiting yourself on the size of the drawing when you're drawing with ink in this size. And so what that means is what I would do is I would use less, I would work it less, work the sphere less. So instead of having like two sets of lines, I probably would do, or sorry, three sets of lines. I would do just two sets of lines. And so you could do the ones that you're doing here, and then I would just do like one set that goes through and does the core shadow, and just really limit it. Because when you start to add more and more layers at this size, the size of the mark relative to the size of the object just takes up too much space and starts to get cluttered really quickly. When the sphere is much bigger, it's harder to become cluttered because there's just so many more marks that you can have fit in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the other question is, so they seem to break up like how you were kind of drawing like along the surface was like one big curve kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, I guess I was trying to do some curves. Now I'm looking at that. Those lines look very straight. I mean, very wobbly straight, but on the ones that are going across it. So when you're trying to follow the path of the sphere, the
Mhm.
surface, it seems like in their picture they did smaller lines, so then it's like more straight. Like almost all of them are like straight, but they do like a little patch of straight this way and then
Yeah.
more vertical. Um, would you recommend maybe trying something like
Yeah.
that instead, or is it that just like a preference of
Um,
style of like ultimately you're getting that curve, whether you do it as straight lines or like a curve is
yeah, it's a little different because they're using graphite, so they have like these marks here
pressure.
are much lighter also than the marks down here, right? They're just pushing
Okay.
lighter.
Mm-hmm.
So it changes that way too. I think that this method of doing more straight lines works because of um, how big the sphere is just as a drawing. It's probably like,
Okay.
it's probably like an 8 inch or 9 inch sphere when they're drawing it and, on their sheet of
Mm-hmm.
paper. And so it gives you more space to do that. Um,
Okay.
you'd need a really, 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 really tiny pen, like really thin, like, you know, fine point pen to be able to pull that off. Um,
I was
on a
using a
smaller
point .1 for this one or
y-
an O1 for that
oh,
one,
one,
but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
figured. Yeah. Yeah, there's a bunch of ways to do it, honestly. The
Okay.
most important thing is capturing this idea of highlight, light source, light area, halftone, core shadow, reflected light. If you can capture that, it does really well. You did it here. The thing is, like, the reason that this ends up looking a little bit more messy is just because the actual control of each of the lines isn't like, perfect, let's say, right? Like the
Hmm.
lines on this person, they're like damn near perfect. Like every line is
Yeah.
placed really, really well. This one, if we look really closely at the lines, right,
Yeah.
there's some that are going in the right direction, and then there's some that kind of stray from that. Like there's this line here that's this way, and then this one's going this way, and then this one's going this way, and the spacing, right, isn't consistent
Hmm.
really. And so that's just one of those things where it's like the line work is I think you're moving faster than your hand can control. So when you start to speed up, you lose more and more control. Like if you did this double as fast, like it would be a complete mess, right? If you
Hmm.
slowed it down and did it half as fast, right?
Hmm.
So let's say it took 3 minutes, you do it in 10 minutes instead. You could put a lot of intention into every single line and really like kind of make sure that they're evenly spaced and um, right there. Let's say the ends of the line are also ending not so abruptly. Some of these marks you can see like you kind of, I think down here especially, you stop and you kind of make a little dot or like a little check mark right here. Right,
Hmm.
right here is a little check
Yeah.
mark, and that's because you're moving fast and you're hitting the brakes, right? It's like like a ice skater, right? They're just turning really sharp and stopping.
Hmm.
Whereas if you had really, really smooth control, you could have your pen coming in and then well, I can't do it on this because it's like not a pen, but you could have your pen lifting up off of the page as you're finishing the mark, so that mark would get thinner and thinner instead of becoming thicker and thicker. So I don't know. Yeah, I think you said you were doing the drawing drills, right? So
Yeah.
in it, I talk about like the plane landing, right, and the plane taking
Hmm.
off, and then the plane coming in
Yeah.
for a go around, right? So this would be a
Hmm.
moment for the go around mark, right? It comes in thin, thick in the middle, thin at the end.
Okay.
Right. That would be what you're doing is the landing, and you're landing kind of hard. You're like coming in and just you're going in thin at the top, and then you're stopping the mark really, really abruptly. And so all in ink, all of these things are very visible. Like it catches every weird squirmy thing that your hand does on its own. With a pencil, not as much, and with a pencil, you can erase it. So yeah, you can
Okay.
see like here, like in here, these right, it captures everything.
Yeah.
These little wiggles and
Hmm.
stuff, right? That's just the shakiness of your hand. It's just natural. And so ink is just, it tells you exactly what your hand is doing. Whereas with pencil, not as much. The softness of the lead too, it just allows for a different grip on the paper. And so it just is a different feel altogether. Um, so yeah, I'd say if you try this sphere again, like with ink,
Hmm.
I assume just by looking at this, it probably took you maybe 2 or 3 minutes to draw that. Maybe that's a lot even to draw this particular sphere right here. Try doing one in 10 minutes instead. Like really spend a good amount of time on just one and see how much you can actually put into it. Maybe make it a little bit bigger too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
hmm You're welcome. Yeah. Any other questions about it before we move on?
No, I think that's enough to do right now. I'm sure I'll have
Cool.
other things later, but
Yeah. I think about 2 weeks ago, I added a sphere drawing to the drawing drills. I added a new lesson. I'm not sure if you saw that
oh,
one.
okay. I'll have to take a look.
Yeah, it's right after the dry medium drill. So it's the one. It's like maybe lesson 7 or 6 or 7 or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a
Awesome.
new one where I draw a sphere like from start to finish, in
Okay.
pencil.
I'll definitely have to look at that. Yeah, I haven't been doing the lessons as repeatedly. We're working on moving, so
hmm
I haven't been absorbing new content for drawing. I've just been
Drawing.
anytime is
That's
just
good.
practicing. So
Good. I mean, that's often better.
yeah,
Draw, draw, draw. Right. Cool.
thank you.
You're welcome. All right, let me close these out.
Say something, Sean, if that.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, your all of your your videos or whatever that you put reels and stuff,
hmm
and you're doing the cross hatching, and I think it sort of fooled me into thinking that cross hatching had to be done really fast.
Yeah.
But I realized, oh yeah, you're speeding up the reel,
Yeah, the
and
reels are sped up by 1.5 or 2x depending on the part, and
yeah,
sometimes a lot more, but yeah. I
but
draw
you
fairly
can do
fast.
cross hatching like very intentionally, like each
hmm
line is an actual important intentional about, which
Yes.
I think that was a really good point for me to hear. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
definitely.
you are an amazing crosshatcher.
Thank you. Okay, so we have thank you for that. Yeah, it's a good point for everybody here. Like sometimes just slow down a little bit, especially in the parts where you're like let's say you're just not just drawing a sphere, you're drawing a person or a scene. A lot of times like the focal point or the thing we're really interested in, we'll spend a lot of time, will be like really slow and meticulous, and then we go to the thing next to it, like their pant leg or something, their shoelaces, and we're just like and we make a mess of it. And it's like if we put that same intention throughout the whole drawing, it usually becomes more harmonious because we have the same intent and pattern and thought process throughout the whole thing, rather than like just kind of forcing things and speeding up because we're not as interested in drawing, grass versus the person that's sitting in the grass. I think this is the next one that was uploaded. This is David Clark. I think I see you in here. Yeah, you're here still. I don't know if, yeah, you do have your
Hi,
mic. Hi.
hi, Sean.
You want to tell us about the portrait? Looks like happy
Oh,
birthday.
oh, actually, that's not the person that's referenced up top. But
Oh, okay.
I was just taking I took a group photo and just isolated an individual and said, let me just try to capture the head. When
Mhm.
I started drawing the figure and looking at some of the abstract geometry in the shirt, I said, oh, that's real interesting. I'll try to get some of that as well, but not trying to make it a photo of getting everything in.
Mhm.
Um, Still a little jerky with the marks. But the hardest piece I'm struggling with is the I guess it's the light and the light dark. That the highlight, you have the paper, the dark you crosshatch and get a dark value in,
Mhm.
but it's getting those other values in so that
Mhm.
I can show some of the um, plane changes in on the face.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's really challenging. I think an easy way to like add some more depth to this would just be to grab a white ink, or you could even use a white chalk, and then you can go in and grab some highlights. Like maybe
Okay.
since the light's coming in this way, maybe somewhere on his head, since he's doesn't have much hair up here, you'd have some kind of highlight here, maybe on the brow, maybe on the cheek, maybe on the brim of the glass here. There'd be like if it's plastic or some kind of reflective material. And so you could actually touch, like maybe definitely on the nose somewhere in here, there's going to be some kind of reflection, maybe along it. There's going to be somewhere where there's like this mid-tone isn't quite doing it, so there's going to be some highlights somewhere, and that might be enough to like kind of push it to the next level.
Okay.
Before I get into the value too much, though, what I want to tell you about is what I'm seeing in the portions of the face. Now, I don't know what the reference photo looks like or what this guy looks like, but most people, I would say, have a little bit larger space between their eyes, mainly because if you look straight down, I think it's the left eye, it's a little bit over to the right. You can see how it kind of cuts off part of his nostril here. And then this one over here cuts off less of of his nostril. So usually the eyes, like the tear duct, is directly above where the edge of the nostrils are. Even if you have a wide nose too, like it typically just goes right up in there, just directly straight above. And also typically you can fit one eye in between, right, both of the eyes, which is pretty close to what you have, I'd say. Honestly, when I look at it, I think it's just that this eye is just pushed over a little to the right. And I think if it was just slightly over to the left, his eyes would feel a little bit more set into the skull a little bit more naturally. Now, another thing that I'm seeing is up here, the head curves, I think, a little bit too early because you can see how it kind of is more rounded on this side, and then it's kind of flatter right here.
Yeah.
I think that this might stick up just a little more on this side. And it's very small, but I think that if you did that, it would make the skull and the head feel a little bit more like less egg-shaped, right? More kind of solid and rounded like a cranium, like a skull is. I think that those two things would really make the construction and the solid feeling of the head would really lock into place. Last thing I'll say about that type of stuff before I move on to the shading is so there's a line that you can draw across the features. And so the nose and the mouth are very parallel with each other, and the chin is just slightly off of that. You can see how the chin is kind of almost directly horizontal, whereas this is slightly diagonal. And then the eyes, if we draw through the eyes, right, it's going the other direction. When we do that in our drawings, it gives us that like uncanny effect, that like weird kind of like there's something going on with the head. If all
Okay.
of those things are perfectly parallel with each other, the construction and the drawing of the head just kind of snaps into place correctly. And it's really subtle. When I draw the lines, it's like, oh wow, it's really obvious. Like I can see it now. When the lines aren't there, you can't quite see it, but you kind of can. Like there's just something happening where you're like, something feels wrong. Especially when you zoom out just a little bit, you start to see it, I think, more. When you get all of those, and this is the most honestly the most common thing with portraits. When you get all of those to be right, then maybe the mouth would be more up this way, and the chin would be up more this way, like this. When you get all of those to be really parallel, it just makes the drawing just feel so much better. Um, so this is before you go into doing all the shading, right? Making sure all of those things are lined up. And so whenever I draw a portrait, these lines right here,
Yes.
this is the first thing I draw are those lines. You know, maybe the center line going through the middle of the head too, just to divide it symmetrically.
Hmm.
And like these lines right here, this like kind of cross thing that I have going on, that's like one of the first things that I draw when I draw a portrait. And that just lines up everything, right? It tells me the distance between the eyes and the nose. It tells me everything that I need to do. It really just maps everything out. Now, I know you're working in ink, so it's like, do I want to have these long lines going across my page? Well, for the most part, they get covered up, right? Most of those lines would get covered up by the shading and everything else, so you don't really have to worry about it too much. You can also do it like as an indication of a line, right? You could kind of fake it and just kind of, instead of having the line go all the way across, you just have it go across the eyes, but you keep it parallel. A lot of ways to do it.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the main thing I would focus on before we get into the shading.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I was
Go
trying
ahead.
to not use the pencil to start it out, but
Yeah.
it's really okay to use the pencil to do those
Oh
kinds
yeah.
of things in terms of alignment and
hmm
proportion.
Yeah, it's very important. I think that those things are more important than shading. Like you can shade this thing into, for next till next week, but the more you shade this, right, the more time you're putting into it, and the eyes are still slanted this way and the mouth is slanted that way. So no matter how much shading you do, that will never change. So that beginning part is the most important because if you get that right, then the shading feels even better.
What
And it's like,
what do they say? If the window isn't right, it doesn't matter how pretty the curtains are.
Yeah, yeah, that definitely, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like measure twice, cut once as well, right? You want to really make sure things are mapped out and then go in and spend that time shading. Now, once we get into the value, I think that you're actually doing pretty good at like getting the shadow darker and darker by adding more and more lines. You actually already mentioned it, you said your lines are a little bit shaky and wobbly or kind of fast-paced, and that's okay, honestly. There's plenty of people who have drawn in this fashion and in this way, and it ends up looking great. It depends on what style you're looking for. Are you trying to go for super clean classical cross-hatching, or are you trying to go for more of a, fast action, s- not scribble, but like close to scribbling? Scribbling's more like lines that go all over the place. Um, and it can work, right? I see form here. Like the form is happening. Like there's a lit up area and there's a shadow area, right? That's
Okay.
and actually when I put that highlight there, you can actually see how that actually does a lot just by having that. It just, kind of pops the head into place a little more. So what I would do to add more form is you're actually doing it already. So like in here on the nose, you can see right in here, you have
Yes.
this one set of lines. That's it. There's maybe a line that goes this way once, a line that goes like that, just to define part of the nose. But that's how you get a midtone.
Okay.
Right. Your paper is a midtone, but like a midtone past that, midtone dark, right? You have your super darks in here, like your black, near black, dark, right? In here, it's just a bunch of lines. So darker, more lines, lighter, less lines. So in the area where you want a transition, you do something like this. And so you can do that. I mean, you're doing it in other places too. You're doing it here. You have less lines, right? And so you have to just start to, when you're using the reference, you have to find where those areas are and be very intentional with just putting one set of lines and then here putting way more lines, right, until it fills up and just doing that into the form.
Okay.
I think that there would definitely still be um, some kind of reflected light on the side of his head,
Yes.
right? And that could be the paper showing through again, right? So you could have just no ink again, or it goes into the area where there's only one set of lines again. And that'll just kind of it just adds something when you have that, right? When I zoom out and just by putting those two marks, maybe that's not exactly where they'd be, but
That lighter value in the dark, is that
yeah.
what's considered turning the form?
You mean those lines that I just put there? Those lighter
Yes.
lines?
Where you were saying there were lights in those
Yeah.
dark.
Yeah, so that's called the reflected light. So whatever is happening in this image, there's like it's pretty much impossible not to have reflected light because there's so much ambient light in a room. And so whatever's on the left side of this person, like let's say it's another person even. So you have another person's head right here and they're being lit up, right? Let's say it's a close, kind of family photo where they're standing next to each other. This part of this person's head is being lit up. And so the light is bouncing off this person's head and hitting this guy's head over here. And so
Got
this side of the head would have some kind of reflective light happening. And it's going to be in a lot of areas. Like you'd be surprised. Under the neck, it usually happens too.
right.
Um, it happens, you know, very, very commonly. I
I
could
got
pop up a picture too, just to show it even better. Let's see a portrait here. Facial features. Here's a pretty good one. We all know this guy, Picasso, right? Um, so if there was no reflected light, this entire side of his head that's in shadow would be just dark, right? But it's
right.
not. You can see how it's darker in here, and then it's lighter on this side, right? That's reflected light. That's ambient light hitting, bouncing off something and bouncing onto his face on this side. And so you can see it on his nose when we were talking about um, Kylie's spheres, right? I already got rid of them. So on Kylie's spheres, right, we're talking about how it goes into a core shadow and then into a reflected light. So that happens on this nose. This nose is a perfect example because he's kind of has a ball on the end of his nose. You have a light up area, it's all in light, right? You have a half tone right in here, like that. You have the core shadow right here, and then you have the reflected light right
Yes.
here, right here, right? So those sections of the nose are all like those same exact things we're talking about on the sphere. It's on the guy's nose. It's on the guy's eyelids. It's on the guy's chin, right? It's very subtle, but you can see core shadow right here, reflected light right here, right? Everywhere you look, it's happening. You like can't avoid it. It's happening on his collar, right? His collar's core shadow in here, reflected light right here, right? It's it's a phenomenon that happens on every single form, everywhere, all the time, unless you're like in a very dark lit room, and even then, you're going to get very subtle reflected light, and that's what makes these forms look like so. I mean, obviously it's a photo, but you can draw this, right? We can paint this. People have done it.
Mm.
Um, and it's all about that getting that subtlety of the reflected light, really capturing that midtone or that like it's not a midtone, sorry, that reflected light in here. Good point that I just said that a reflected light is it's darker than a halftone. So like this is the halftone in here, right? This part right here is darker, right? And we can actually prove that. Watch. Take this right here, actually pull the color off of it, and then put it on top of his nose. Look how much darker it is.
Mm.
Right? That's great. Like we wouldn't think that when we just look at it like this. We're like, oh, it's getting lighter over there. And so a lot of times when we do reflected light, we actually make the reflected light too light. And so imagine if we took that value of the midtone and we made his reflected light like that, right in here, right? It starts to flatten the form.
Right.
It's too light. And so there's this sweet spot. That's why it's so nuanced, right? That's why it's so challenging. That's why it's so like, it's why I talk about reflected light so much because it's really hard to capture. It's much darker than we think it is. We see dark, right? Let me do that again. We see dark here, and we see it get lighter, and we're like, oh, it's lighter. Let me make it really light. And so the subtlety is really important here. I love this experiment here. Like, look at how dark that is. It's so dark.
Mm.
Everywhere it's like that. So, yeah, that's a really good example of that. So in crosshatching, right, you can capture those types of things too. I think I have a crosshatch drawing that we can actually look at where I have reflected light popping up. Let me find it. I think this would be a good example. Yeah, this is probably a pretty good example. Okay, so this is like a very classical crosshatching where everything's very consistent, very even spaced, all that stuff. In here, right, there's reflected light happening, right? So you have right in here, this is the core shadow right here, right? It's two sets of lines overlapping. And then right below that, there's only one set of lines right there. That's the reflected light. And then it goes into another shadow going into the kind of underneath thing, right?
Right.
This is the same thing as a sphere. This right here is a elongated sphere. It's like a long egg shape, right? Uh, Light source, highlight area, core shadow, reflected light, kind of another form shadow that's wrapping under. Um, and so the way that that's done is it's actually pretty easy if you look at it closely. What happens is there's marks that go here. Let me get a little closer to it. So there's marks that get this the right size. If I get it. Marks that go across like this.
And they go across the entire shape of that plane that you're
Yeah,
getting ready to turn into
exactly.
form.
Exactly. So it goes right from the edge of the form turning from this is facing up this way, hitting the light. This is facing down towards the ground where it's getting less light. So there's a plane change, boom, like that, right? It's like a 90-degree turn, right? You just covered that whole thing, and then you go into the second pass this way, over half of it, and that creates the core shadow just by having those two sets of lines.
Yeah.
And so that way you don't have to do another pass or anything. You hit both at once, right?
I
And
like
that
this kind of food.
creates
I
that
like this kind of
beautiful
food.
set of lines.
Yes.
And so you can see like there's other parts where I do a very similar thing right here, right? Really, really, really long lines, and then one set right here to create the core shadow. And so this whole area is reflected. That giant area is reflected light. And when we zoom out, remove all these lines, really zoom out on it, you can see how it has like that, there's like that glow under there. The reflected light on this is much stronger because this tablet that he's holding is white stone. It's a drawing of a sculpture, so it's white on white marble. So the light that's reflecting off of this and bouncing up is very strong. It's a white object, right? But you can see how it creates that beautiful form there like that. There's a really nice one right in this little muscle. Another, right? These are all just little eggs, little round spheres that I'm drawing over and over. Right? Lines this way, lines over it again, and you have it. So I'm just repeating the same thing over and over. I'm finding what the form looks like. Lines, lines, done. And then I move on to the next one. It happens again right here. Right? And there's some areas where I probably overwork it a little bit, and there's some areas where I don't, and that's just kind of the natural way of drawing. Um, but yeah, same thing with this finger right here. Right?
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, and Sean, congratulations on your hitting that 50,000 mark. That
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Speaks to the, incredible job that you do. We
Thank
really,
you.
really appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. Yeah. Yeah, the community has up to 50,000 people. It's really pretty insane. And thank you all for being in the community and joining the calls and participating. It's really a good part of it. And for those who don't know, I did post in the announcement page because we broke 50,000. I gave you guys all a 60% discount code for the figure drawing course that I have. So if you guys would like to do that, you get 60% off using that code. So that's really cool. Yeah, so I think this is a good example of that kind of cross-hatching thing that you could do. Now, like I said, the style of this is like the point when I was doing this was like I want to see how patient I can be with my lines, how far I can push it. It was like a really kind of a test of my own ability in a way. There's areas that I would even critique myself, like in here, I got kind of sloppy. Like this little area, there's like lines where I know I'm being kind of nitpicky, but there's lines here where they're like kind of, I'm not really sure what's happening, right? There's like some overlaps that are kind of weird. You can see how I was telling Kylie earlier, there's like these lines where I'm coming in and stopping hard, right here. This line's thicker here than it is down here. There's that check mark J thing that I was telling you about, right? I did it right there, right? I was moving too fast. So, right, even in a drawing that's, I don't know, this good, let's say, quote unquote, um, there's still areas where I speed up and I'm like, I'm losing my patience a little bit. And so yeah, it's good to just take a deep breath and just slow down if you're trying to aim for something and stay with the intention of that goal, right? Yeah, so back to this real quick. I think just leaving a little bit of the paper showing through or just getting less and less in the light there or less and less marks might create that nice reflected light. And now that we've been talking about this so much, everybody here, you're probably going to start to notice it a little bit more. Whenever we talk about value, you're going to hear me say reflected light. Like no matter how many calls you come to this, Joan's probably heard it a million times by now, because she's been going to this calls for a long time. I bring up reflected light every single time because it's literally the most important part of like shading and getting something to look really realistic is just nailing that reflected light. And if you can do that, your drawings are just going to like amaze people.
Yeah, I got nailed on it.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
One of my first drawings, first painting.
Yeah, the reflected light's too light.
It's too light.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we're going to move on to the
Thank
next
you
one
again.
here. You're very welcome, David. Thanks for sharing your art. So next we have a painting of flowers. Is it still in here? Where'd it go? Who did this one? I said, okay, roast me. The person who posted this, are they still here? I don't see their name in the chat anymore. They delete it and leave, maybe? Is this yours,
I have a
Mona?
question about I have a question about hatching whenever there's a
Sure.
moment.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's do it before we move into the next one.
Excuse me. Yeah, you see the concept with the hatching. I've asked this before. I actually need to practice it. I do, but
Okay.
so we're talking about the planes, right? So even
Mhm.
when things are curving, they're like made of like really small, planes that are curving around.
Mhm.
So the hatching is kind of showing the 90-degree kind of angle, isn't it? So the hatching moves with that kind of plane with that 90-degree angle tilting as well. But that's one line. So when the second line is coming with the diamonds, that's where I'm not sure how to approach it. And do you have? I haven't looked at the drills course in a while, but is there anything that actually goes over that? Because I was trying to do the sphere, and then I was like, okay, as it curves in underneath, how
Hmm.
do I, think about that?
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways to actually pull it off. I think in here is kind of a good example, maybe. That's probably too big of a form. Let's stick to these smaller forms.
Excuse me.
Actually we can look at this first. It's kind of messy, but this front edge of this tablet thing, right? The lines are going this way. And on a rectangle, it's kind of easy because you just use the corner, right? This is the corner up here. I just use that as the guiding point for all these lines going down, right? And it's actually same on this side up here, right? This way. And so that these planes, though they're actually the same, like this is facing up, this is facing down this way, those lines actually both describe that that's happening. And so one of the things that I think about is putting the line perpendicular to the direction of the plane. So perpendicular meaning, the opposite, right? So like I drew this arrow right here, right? This is facing up like this, right? Perpendicular to that, like 90 degree, right, would be like this, around there, right? It'd be this edge right here. So that's how you do a cross contour line. A cross contour line is perpendicular to the direction that the thing is facing, right? It's facing up, the line goes this way, right? And you could actually do it, a long line going like this. That would be technically perpendicular as well. But when you do a long line, first of all, harder to draw a long line than a short one. So drawing that super long line and having that. Another thing that happens too is that this is receding this way, right? So we're moving away from the viewer going into the distance that way. And so when you draw the lines like this, it's almost like you're like putting the lines of a ruler, right? You're etching in the distance that's moving back. And so when I draw these lines here, this is like saying like, okay, it's hard to kind of just like explain how it works in my mind, but it's like you're kind of like etching in like every so much distance you're saying here's another millimeter down, whatever the distance is. It's almost like you're measuring, right? You're measuring away from you. And for some reason, for me, in my mind, and in most classical drawing, that describes the form moving away better than a line going this way. Because this line here doesn't tell us that, like this part of the line doesn't tell us that this part of the line is further away. It's one line, so it actually kind of flattens it for me. When you have lines going in a distance, it's like you're etching into it, like it's getting further and further away. And this is like imagine like a road going into the distance, right? And the road has really, really small ripples, right? As it gets further and further away from you, you'd see those little ripples in the road, right? And those lines would kind of etch into the road going this way.
Mm.
That's kind of like how I think about it in my head in a way. I know I'm not describing it perfectly right now, but just for those kind of more squared planes, that's how I think of it. For a rounded plane, interestingly enough,
Yeah.
even though this is a rounded palm, like we know that this part of the flesh of the hand is fairly round and soft. I use straight lines still because I just prefer straight lines. I like drawing them more. I'm better at them. But what I'm doing here is, like I said, this area here is facing up towards the light.
Mm.
And then this area here, right? We can turn this into a rectangle, right? Take this off. Right, this is this palm, and this is facing up this way. This is the hand, the kind of the paddle of the hand. And there's a bunch of little undulations in there from the skin and the veins and the tendons and stuff. But this part of the hand is facing down, right? It's a rectangular prism just like anything else, and this part is facing up,
Mm.
right? And so what we're describing here at this edge is the shift in the plane as it wraps down and around. Okay. The first set of lines is literally just like I said here, right? It's just following the edge of this square or this rectangle, right?
Mm.
This is following the edge of this rectangle here. So all of these lines are just following that. like that. The second set of lines
Mm.
is that first off, the goal for me is always to create these diamonds, not like a grid. So if I wanted to, if I went the other way like this, it would kind of create like this grid, and that typically flattens. Like if
Mm.
we look right in here, this little negative space, it would turn more into like a square in the negative space. It's kind of like a diamond, but it's more like a square. Right, these little shapes in here. And those typically flatten the form because, you look at a chain link fence straight on and they look like little squares. But if you start to tilt your angle on a chain link fence, those squares turn into diamonds, right? That's kind of the same concept here. The form is moving away from us. The form is moving away from us in two different ways. It's moving down and away from us. Like so this
Mm.
part here is closer to us. And then this part over here on the left is closer to us. And so you're looking down the chain link fence from a point of view where your head is closer to this whole area and it's further away down here. This is so strange that we're talking about this. And then this area here is closer. So as we look down the chain link fence, right, those squares of the chain link fence become more like diamonds because they're becoming pushed into perspective. And so when
Mm.
you think of this whole plane as it's a flat plane, but it's in a perspective. So it can't be uh, flat squares on there. Otherwise, it would make it look like it's flush with
Mm.
our point of view. So anything that's not flush with our point of view doesn't get a 90-degree hatch mark.
Ah.
So just with that, I create a 45-degree hatch mark or less or more than 90 degree if you want to measure the other angle, let's say. Does that make sense?
Would that be would the 45-degree thing is in this case is the thing that is right under the palm, like where it's resting on something, that bottom edge?
Yes. Yes, those are also like well, those are closer to 90, but
Mhm.
they're not quite 90, yeah.
Okay.
In here. So yeah, the goal for me is always to just make like whatever I can do to make these diamonds while also trying to describe the form. And
Mm.
so what I would say this line does here is let's remove all these extra lines real quick. So like I said, this line is like showing us that it's going, kind of down and away from us, right? It's along that plane of that rectangle. What this one is doing is actually kind of rounding that out because, like I said earlier, this kind of fatty part of your hand is kind of soft and pillowy and it's rounded. When you have straight lines that are going across the whole thing, and then you take this line here, right? You're kind of adopting part of this plane here. See how it's in between? Right? You have this line, you have this line, and you have this line. So
Mm.
those lines together make this, or make this.
The
So you can
curve,
see
yeah.
how now there's a curve here, right? You're doing this way, towards us, down, right?
Mm.
Does
Mm.
that make sense? So now you're actually
Yeah. Yeah.
describing multiple planes within this little area,
Mm.
right? This whole thing is facing down this way, but part of it, this area is facing more towards us than it is down.
Yeah.
And so that's why I decided to make the lines in that direction, is because it describes that this area in here,
Balances it a little bit,
it
yeah.
balances. Yeah, it's like an in between this line and this line.
Yeah.
Right now you have this in between. So
And you're
you're kind
also
of,
adding you're also adding the value as well. It's darker here. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it serves
exactly.
both kind of purposes. Yeah.
Right. It serves the purpose of creating a core shadow in here, and
Yeah.
it serves the purpose of creating the plane that you have here that's facing up, one that's
Mm.
facing towards us, then one that's facing down, like that. And so now you have three planes, which in this drawing make it look more like
Yeah.
geometric. In reality, it's very
Yeah.
round, right?
Because the top one, the one straight line, one angled line meets the middle part, which is kind of almost straight down, because
Hmm.
that's the actual angle, and then curving again at the bottom. But you add the other more diagonal line because that will create the value. But the form line is really the one that's facing down in the middle bit.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. No,
Yes.
it's more practice. The back and forth thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You hear
Yeah.
this and
I
then do
think
it.
that this here describes it actually probably the best.
That's what I'm talking about. That
Yeah.
diagonal line, straight line, and bottom
Yeah.
diagonal is the form. The middle bit has the extra lines for the value.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly
Okay.
right. Yeah.
So
That's
you would do the form line first, and then the value line next.
yes.
I'm separating them now. Value
Yeah.
line and the value form line and the value line.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the hand, like I said before, has this shape
Yeah.
where this plane is that, this geometric shape is like this, like we're looking into the palm, right? If this was
Yeah.
hollow, we could see into it, right?
Yeah.
And we couldn't see this top side. So when we look at the hand, right, well, let it go further up than that, but you go to
Mm.
like here, right? Make this a little bigger, right? The paddle of the hand is like this, and we're
Mhm.
seeing into the paddle of the hand, right?
Mhm.
And we're seeing into the wrist here like this. We can, if this was a hollow cylinder, we could see into it, right? So the lines are going like this,
Mhm.
right? So every line is trying to describe the roundness of the form in the best way possible. And
See the lines going over the veins. Is it like a lighter colored marker? Is it pencil? Because it's very light.
no, it's just a faster mark.
Oh, okay.
So you can see this is all the same pen everywhere. You can see
Same
how,
pen. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Brilliant.
So like this mark right here is just really slow and there's more ink
Yeah.
coming out. And this
Yeah.
mark here is very, very fast.
Okay.
Like, yeah, it's barely touching the paper.
Yeah.
And that's why it kind of skids across and it doesn't release as much ink. So, because if you take the pen and you just hold it there, the ink will just keep coming out, right? It just keeps making a bigger and bigger dot,
Yep.
and the ink just keeps bleeding and bleeding. So that's another thing with ink, right? The longer you keep the pen down, the
Yeah.
more ink comes out.
Or the
And
slower
that's
you go. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And that's why you have marks like in here
Mm.
that have this kind of dark and then thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's that plane taking off mark.
I can see you doing that little, like almost like a little tick line underneath the veins as well. So give it like that little curve as
Hmm.
well. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're welcome. Yeah, that was a good way.
Yeah.
That was a good question, and that was probably one of the better ways to describe it is this way right here. Um, yeah,
Brilliant.
thank you for asking
Thank
that.
you. No worries.
Hopefully that was helpful for some other people too to listen to, because it's very technical discussion.
Anybody
Like,
awake?
yeah,
No,
that
that
was
was absolutely helpful. Yes.
yeah, that's a very, very, very technical like question and approach to
Yeah.
look at the individual lines and what they're doing. The more that I'm looking at zoomed in on this, I'm like, wow, these lines are sloppy. Um,
Uh,
yeah, this is another drawing I did too, and it's like this is a similar thing, right? On this finger here.
you know, one of my favorite drawings of yours is the one with that statue of the angel, or like the
Yeah, 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 I did.
you
It
know
was like a
that was like
Icarus.
insane, man.
Yeah. Um, so you have these lines. This finger is a rectangle, right? Like this
The little box.
little box, yeah. And so these lines are describing this side,
Yeah.
right? And then this line here on top that adds that core shadow that just barely overlaps is like a transition between, or it's a diagonal kind of between
Mhm.
this one that would be up here. And so it
See
creates,
your process to get here. I mean, it can be hard to remember the past in that sort of sense, but to the step by step approach, for example, for a beginner, you know, were you at that time figuring it out, and now you just do it because you kind of know you need to get it darker, or do you kind of like still plan it, where the
hmm
line or which direction it needs to go?
um no, on this at this stage it's more like intuitive. It's like as I'm making marks, I'm making the decisions and this is also another sculpture. So this is a Michelangelo sculpture.
Mhm.
And so I have the photo reference and I'm looking at the values and then I'm making decisions on the like as I'm about to
The
make the
fly.
lines, I'm choosing how it's going to look. And as far as like, do I decide, this direction instead of like this direction, right? That's just because I've drawn these cylinders, these like boxes so many times, both as boxes and as fingers and as arms and as, vases and everything that is the world is made up of basic geometric shapes. So you just
Mm.
shade them enough, and you start to just know how it looks and how it works. Yeah,
Lovely.
yeah. This was one of my best crosshatch drawings I think I've done. Um,
Really? Do you have that angel one?
I don't have a picture of it. I don't think on
All
my
right.
computer. Yeah, that one was really nice too. Um, yeah, drawing sculptures is also a really good practice for everybody here. Get a where the heck? Oh, you're drawing on it. Yeah, just get a sculpture that you really like. Michelangelo's David is one that people draw all the time, and draw those. The nice thing about drawing sculptures is that it removes the saturation and color change of skin. When we draw people, right, my nose is more red than the side of my cheek. My fingertips are more kind of flush and red and in color than the top of my hands up here, right? There's all these changes in color and saturation and value just from the mere fact that we're alive, right? Whereas a sculpture, it's purely form. It's just
Mm.
the shapes. It's just light and dark on a white surface, the stone, or whatever the color of the marble is, the stone that you're looking at, or the bronze sculpture, whatever it is. And so it really allows you to just see form without those extra things that really get not in the way, but they distract from our study of the form. David, looks like you have your hand up. Do you have a question?
Yes, Mark actually raised the question about if you only had one pen, which one would you get?
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I see it in chat. Oh, yeah. It would probably be the microns. This one here. See if I can hold it up. I don't know if it's going to focus on it, but it's a Pigma micron. So
Which thickness?
this is an O3. I like the O3 probably the most. This drawing down here was done with a 005, which is like tiny.
Mm.
Because it's such like so much detail. So I mean, I don't know. I get all of them though. I get like an O5, an O3, an O1, an 005, right? As many of them as you can. The reason I like this pen the most is because one, it lasts pretty long. Like one pen
Mm.
can maybe do two of these intense drawings, maybe three, before the nib starts to kind of wear and the ink starts to fade. But they're also very cheap. They're like $15 for a pack of like 8 or 9 or something like that. And the mark that it makes is super consistent. When you use like a pen that has a nib like this, like a fountain pen,
Mm.
right? The mark is fairly inconsistent. The way that the ink comes out isn't, it's not perfect. Sometimes the ink doesn't come out. Sometimes you run out of ink and it's like just out of nowhere you're out of ink. It's much more inconsistent. The mark is different, but it's just more inconsistent. Also, this ink is waterproof, so you can draw with this. And like, let's say I wanted to paint this with watercolors, I can put watercolors right on top, and the ink will not move at all. It won't get pulled up. It won't reconstitute into a liquid. It just stays. So yeah,
I've been
Figma.
using fountain pens,
Yeah,
which I hear what you're saying is incredibly more challenging, I think.
yeah. It's more inconsistent. Also, there's more pressure sensitivity involved because when you I don't know if you can see that, but if you press on it, right, it opens, the nib opens, right?
Right.
And so it lets out more ink. With a micron, it doesn't do that. It's all about speed. How long is the pen touching the paper for? If you just leave it like this, it's just going to keep pulling ink out. So if you move really fast, it pulls out less ink.
Yep.
Just different tool. But yeah, that'd be my pick.
And what's the white marker that you use for toned paper?
It's actually the same company.
Oh, it's
It's
Micron?
Sakura. So Micron is
Oh,
like the model, let's say, right? It's like the type of pen. And then the company that makes it is called Sakura. And Sakura, I think, is a Japanese company. They also do like paper. They do like origami paper and stuff like that.
okay.
So it's this little flower logo. And these are called jelly rolls, white. They work pretty well.
Yeah, and cool on the toned paper.
Yeah. All right.
Do
So
you
let's
use the
move.
same pen for the entire drawing, or do you use more than one pen, like an O3 and then an O5?
It depends, but for the most part, I stick with one. I think that larger sculpture that I just showed was just one. It was the 005, like the really, 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 really fine liner one. I think this one's an 03 all the way through. It's a larger drawing, and it's the details aren't as intense. That's it. Let's say not as small. Yeah, usually just one, but sometimes more than one. Depends, right? Depends. Let's do a couple more of these. So this tulip painting is, I don't see it in the chat anymore. I don't know if they left. So let's just skip this one unless they say something. Okay, so here's an eyeball. This person posted three things, I think. Let's just do a couple of them real quick. This eye looks pretty good, actually. Um, the only thing I would suggest is it's kind of blurry, so it's hard to see, but for the most part, I would try to avoid having the eyelashes look like they're coming out of the eye like this. You did it on the bottom right here. You can see how this eyelid has a thickness, right? Like this, right? There's a plane that's facing up like this, and then the eyelid skin itself is facing down this way. The eyelashes come out of the front of that. They don't come out of over here like this, right? And a lot of times it might be because they're curling down and in front, and so it looks like they're coming out. I would just try my best to create some kind of separation there where it doesn't look like they're just coming out of the eyeball itself, and rather they're coming out of um, the thickness of that right there, right? There's a thickness in there as well. Um, this photo is a little blurry, so it's harder to like see what exactly there's I would change, but I mean, for the most part, it looks good. Like it's an little eye study. I wouldn't change too much about it, honestly. I think it's good practice to do these things. So yeah, do more of them. The water droplet or the tear coming out of the tear duct, it's kind of a powerful thing to add to something to make it feel more emotive and emotional in a sense, right? So that's nice. Yeah. Well, I think you actually uploaded multiple, so I'm gonna do your other one because I think it has more to say about it. This one. So it's
Yeah,
actually
it's in this amount of questions.
this
Like
is yours,
because I
Mona.
know how am I audible?
I can't really
Hello,
quite hear you. There's a lot of background stuff happening, so it's hard to hear you.
can I hear can you hear me now?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So basically there is a light and leaves are uh covering all over. In here, how do you decide uh where it should be a reflection or where it should be a dark because the leaves are everywhere.
Hmm.
The light is in between. So
Yeah, I think the leaves actually look really good on this. When you have a lot of leaves, it usually people like try to draw every single leaf, and you didn't do that here, and I like that. You just have this big shape that's kind of taking care of like the large, darker leaves, and you have individual leaves, and that's kind of breaking up the space where you have these little shapes in between, right? You have these little negative space pockets. That's nice. If you had every single leaf drawn perfectly, it would probably be too busy, and it kind of like kind of startle you a little bit, like, whoa, that's too much, because you have so like this doesn't match the rest. And this even indicates more leaves too, like down here. So I think you did really good. I think you asked about the reflections. Maybe we were talking about reflected light, and you're asking like, where would I put reflected light on these leaves? I don't know that you need to in this style because you're not necessarily going for, exact realism in a style. You're just kind of you're making a painting, a watercolor painting. And so I think that the way you've done it is actually similar to how I would do it. Like I especially like this right here, this little light strip right here. Like you didn't quite fill it in all the way, and maybe even here too, you like didn't fill it. I like that because then the pen is finishing the shape right here too. It kind of creates like the bottom side of the leaf that's like facing down this way. It's curling up. That's really cool. Little details like that are nice. Um, for the feedback that I would give on this though is when you draw something like this, that's like a metal. It's when people make these, they make them very like perfectly. Like every little thing is symmetrical on it. Everything's measured the same, right? Each of these panes of glass are made in the same way. So there's no variation when they make these things. And so that's what makes drawing this very hard. because when we draw things, we don't have the same tools that they were using, right? We're putting it on a flat piece of paper, whereas they're using three-dimensional material in their hands, and they can, you know, make it exactly the same measurements by measuring everything. And so what happens is when you draw like we were talking about rectangles and stuff, right? This rectangle goes like this, and as it's getting further away, you can see it's getting bigger. And as things recede, they get smaller. So this part here is closer to us than this. And so this line here should be smaller than this one. Because as it gets further away, it should be receding and getting smaller. That's kind of a rule of perspective, is things get smaller as they recede away. And so it'd probably be more, I mean, I could even go with parallel like that. It would probably make more sense. And so you'd bring the dark up like this and get rid of this little area, darken that whole area in like this. And that'd probably fix that. Um, I'm not sure if you would see some of this part here. Like you can see how you can see this side like this. Would you not see this side here too? Maybe not. I'm not sure because you're looking at it straight on. These types of things are so hard that I just don't like drawing them at all. They're like kudos to you for even trying. Like this stuff is so hard to draw. From top to bottom, right? There's going to be a straight line because it's a symmetrical piece, so that little ball at the top is directly in the middle of this entire thing. And then the thing that it connects to down here, right here, is directly in the middle also. So there's going to be a straight line down the middle, and then these panes of glass are likely going to be symmetrically placed inside that. It's very hard to draw. What I will say is that you actually did a really good job as far as um, the paint that you added on top of the drawing actually adds to this quality that it's not perfect because the paint isn't perfect. So it's like you're kind of pushing that a little further by making it's uh it's like it makes the sketch feel more intentional in that way. But I think that just a couple things like this here, this line here, like I think it should be a little, 'cause like I said, it's symmetrical, right? So this here, this line here, right? This one should be symmetrical like this, right? It's a mirror image, and so those are the things that I would really focus on when we're drawing stuff like this. It's really challenging, like I said. Yeah. I'm gonna have to move on to the next one though, because we're getting shorter on time here, and we have a couple more to go through. But that was the tips for that one. Now I have this here. Let me pull up the other one though, because it looks like it's further along. This one. So it looks like a graffiti style, which is cool. Um, Blinky, okay. The robot's cool. The text here, I don't know if I would put these lines here. I'm not sure why those were there. This line here and this line kind of is getting right in front of it. I don't know if it was an accident or something, but I think without those, the Blinky would really look really cool. I've always admired graffiti styles because I can't do them at all. I've tried doing this and I suck at it. So anybody who pulls this off, I'm like, this is really cool. Like lettering and things like this and like the little highlights that you put on it. They're really cool. Um, Now down to the robot. Robot's cool. It's it's in the same style as this. I think it would be really cool if you could paint this in with color and with the same style, like where you have this really blank like red color that's filling in and you have these nice little highlights. Like imagine, I don't know, if this guy was green and you had, a little highlight on the top of his head, and then you had this cape that was like purple or something, and then you had this little highlight right here, right? So you could pull this style into the way that you paint this guy. I don't know what color his skin is, but let's say it's blue. You paint in all this blue, then you put a little highlight here, right here. And so you take the language of this into this,
Mhm.
and then these two become unified together and they become the same. Looks like the same person did it. It might be that that was what you were intending on doing. I'm not sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes, again.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so actually, nice to meet you, Sean. Thanks for looking at my picture.
Hmm.
This character isn't even mine. This is a character that my neighbor gave to me.
Okay.
And me and my friend were starting a studio, but he gave me this character, and I just copied what he did, and then I started adding color to it because this is going to be the cover of the first volume of the comic.
Oh, cool.
Because yeah, this is his character that he created. But I seen your videos, and I was like, I need to follow this guy because like when you were when I seen your video on Instagram, I was like, I need to learn how to do backgrounds because I can't do them at all.
Yeah.
I'm I'm not even the best drawer. Like this is like what I seen from what he gave me. I just copied this myself, and then this is what I came up with.
hmm
But I do get what you're saying. I just wanted to put this up there to see what I could do better, and I do agree with you. Like on the Blinky, like I could fix the lettering right there. Yeah,
Yeah.
th- things like that.
Yeah, I think that those marks, I mean, I don't know why they're there because they're just kind of in front of and on top of, and the other than that, the line work and the way you've written it is really nice. I think you have another mark kind of similar right here, this little S thing that you have here on the bottom of this alien. It's kind of
Yeah.
like it's the same shape, so maybe it happened at the same time.
I think because I did it on Procreate,
Uh,
and I think I wrote on it on accident before I
oh, okay,
got rid
yeah,
of stuff.
I figured it was
Yeah,
an accident. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'd say color this guy in, and then you can even just do a blank color background. It doesn't have to be white. It could be just a color that you pick, something light. But yeah, just keep pushing it further. And then as far as the environments and the backgrounds and the spaces that they're in,
Mhm.
get references, right? Doing it from your imagination, if you're not good at them already, it's gonna be even harder to do it from your mind. So, imagine, let's say, just coming to mind, like he's an alien that's in an arcade, right? Get a picture of an arcade, of an inside of an arcade, and start to stylize the shape of the arcade into this style. And so you drew the alien like he showed it to you, so you can definitely do it from observation. So you can look at something and draw it. Um, think of the place where you want to put the alien for whatever
Mhm.
the scene is in the comic book, and then
Mhm.
use those references to turn it into what you're drawing here, and just use a similar line and a similar shading style when you modify it, when you change it into your own.
Okay. I also have a question too.
Sure.
Because I haven't started I've been too busy, but I haven't started any of your classes yet.
hmm
What would you recommend? Like, because I did this about 3 years ago, and I
Okay.
haven't been drawing since, and I need to get back into it.
Yeah, definitely the
What-
drawing drills course. It's the introductory course. It goes into
Mhm.
like line work and all the things that we've been talking about,
Yeah.
like throughout this whole call. It goes over most of those things, and it goes over drawing scenes and landscapes and things like that stuff too. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of material in there that you could learn from.
All right. Thank
Okay,
you.
you're welcome. I'm gonna close that one up. Tulips is gone. Okay, so we have a portrait here. It looks like it was done with a grid. Let's see. This is Tina.
Yes, hi.
Hi, Tina. You want to tell us
That's
about your
me.
portrait?
Yeah, it's from a video. Can I drop the original in the chat quickly?
Sure.
Let's just see if I can do that. There you go. So it was from a video, and I just liked it, and I tried to do it. And
Mm.
uh, um, of all my paintings that I've done, which are not too bad, this one sucks.
Okay.
Really sucks. I
Okay.
don't like it at all, and I can see that he's too fat than the original,
hmm
but I for the life of me, I just I am I too close to it?
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think I
know.
know what's
I don't know.
happening already, but let me do one thing here.
It just looks it's horrible.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far, but um
No, it's horrible.
yeah,
It's horrible.
let me do
I
this.
don't like it. Every time I see it, I go, darn, I should take this off. This is horrible.
Move this
It just,
over.
I mean, I realize that the hair color is not the same, and so that aside, I thought maybe it was too like fluffy on the one side, but his hair is fluffy on the one side. I just don't know what.
Yeah.
Besides, as I say, that he's too fat. He seems to
Yeah,
have gained weight.
you rounded his cheeks. His head, the proportions of the head are a little bit wider, right? One of the things that I like to do with proportions on faces, especially when it's just a face, is to look at the eyes and measure
Yeah.
with the eye. So I can actually do it here, do some surgery here and take his eye off
Okay.
and, well, not take it, but duplicate it. Oh, it's
Yeah.
below it. Oh, I selected the wrong thing. Hold on a second. All right, copy and paste. Now we have other eye. You can see how there's one eye between both eyes, right? So you can see how from his eye to his hair, right? It's like directly right in the middle, right? Right
Okay.
here, his
Right.
hairline,
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
right? So you can use the eye to see, oh, it's a half of an eyeball. Look at that. Okay, well, we go over here and I do the same thing again with your drawing, and we'll see what happens. I think that there's more space in there.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah, it's right. So now we're going, and it's not too much, but this is the half of the eye, right? And so you've added this right
Yeah.
here. So
Yeah.
there's a width, and I think that you did even more on the left side. So if we go over here
Yeah.
again,
And I did it according to the grid. So, I'd like, what the hell?
yeah, um, you could have moved over a square or something. Like you could have just
Yeah, I could have.
it's
Yeah.
it's very possible. So again, here, eye to eye, like that. It's about one eye, right? And his hair starts maybe like a little bit
Mm,
after that,
yeah, I see that. Yeah.
and then we do this one.
Yeah, it looks more to me
Yeah,
now.
even before measuring, right? We can already kind of tell.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, crap. I'm gonna have to do it all over again. I did this a while ago, so
Hmm.
um, that's very interesting. That's
Okay, fine.
already very, very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So proportions are everything, right? Now the grid.
Yeah,
Oh,
of course.
whoa, I lost it for a second. Okay, the grid here. Let me move these eyes away. The grid is kind of showing through too in your painting. So something happened where you were
Yeah.
maybe you pressed too hard, and then because the watercolors
Yeah.
then went into it, so you kind of scratched and
Yeah.
damaged the paper. So be careful on that too when you're using grid.
Yeah.
Now what I always do with the painting is also like go black and white with it, and so that helps us see the values of what
Okay.
the forms are doing, and you can see
Yeah.
where things get lost. You
Yeah.
can see get things get lost, especially in here, right? The hair blends into the skin, and you can
Yes.
see over here, there's this really nice dark value um, that kind of pulls up all the way up into here, and it separates the hair from the head,
Yes.
right? Right in there. So that'll be really helpful. Can't even get rid of that.
Also, looking at it now, the black and white, it looks like his mouth is being pursed in my one,
Hmm.
whereas it's not on the other
Hmm.
one.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's
Okay, he
just gonna
looks
be
more
this game.
stern.
Yeah, it's gonna be this game of like kind of moving back and forth in your observation to try to get it more
Mm,
accurate. I think also, now that I'm
mm,
looking at it, like if you draw a line directly down um his eye tear duct like this hits his nostril, right? And I think that
yeah.
I mean there's something happening here where I think this eye is actually over to the right too much.
Mm,
Like you see that
I told you
this
it sucks.
yeah, it's not that it sucks. It's just that there's a couple things at the very beginning stage of measuring and drawing that got kind of overlooked or lost in the painting process or something. It's very common, and it's not that it sucks. It's just that it's an opportunity to learn, and it's
Yes,
the
no, 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 it is. It
yeah
is. And
the
you've already
interesting
taught me quite a bit. Thank you.
yeah you're welcome. The thing is too is that if I don't look at the reference photo,
Mm,
right, and then I um, go back to here, right, when I compare to the reference photo, I'm like, oh wow, there's a lot of things that are wrong. When I look at just the painting without the reference photo, I just think of this as a guy, right, with hair and a beard and everything else. Some of those problems kind of go away a little bit. Yeah, he's a little bit heavier set of a person, but that's just who this person is in this painting. So it's like if
Mm,
we play the game of that comparison, of course you were trying to do that, sure. Like you were trying to get this guy's face here.
mm,
And that makes it feel like it's really bad. But if you look at it as just a painting of a person, it's not nearly as like I failed, right? Quote unquote. I think that
yeah.
it's I've been saying this whole call. It's really the beginning part of the drawing. It's really getting sure that those
Yes.
measurements are right. Like I said earlier,
Correct.
use the eye as the measuring point because usually we tend to look at those first or we draw those first. And so since we have them on the page already because we drew them earlier on, we can kind of use that as a measurement. And I think
Yeah.
that yeah, I think that the space in between the eyes might be a little like looking at this without looking at the reference of the person.
Yeah.
Um, it might be a little tight in here. I don't know. Yeah. So you can use this eye all the way from his hair too, and just boom, boom, measure how many eyes there are across his head. Right? There's a lot of ways to use the eye in that way. You can measure his nose, how many eyes is the width of his nose, how many eyes is his mouth, right? You said it was a little too
Yeah.
pursed and closed. It's possible that his
Yeah.
mouth is actually two eyes or more than one, right? You have it as one. And so yeah, just measuring more would be the key here. And then, like I said, uh, looking at it in black and white is always really helpful for painting because when we have
Yes.
a lot of color, we tend to lose our ability to see value because it's such saturated color. And so we're like, oh, it's so
Yeah.
bright and beautiful. But the most important part of a portrait of anything representational is the value. If you get the values
Okay.
right, you're like 95% of the way there. Um,
Okay.
and I can prove that because look, if I change this guy to being purple, he still looks like a person, right? Color is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Value is what makes a person look like a person or an elephant look
Yes.
like an elephant, right? You can have a green
Yeah.
head, but if the values are wrong, the head doesn't look like a head anymore. And so
Yeah.
if we look at the values of this, I think that they're, oop, wrong button. This way, there we go. I think that there's just areas where there's a lot like there's an overuse of midtone everywhere and then not enough dark. Like you have dark
Okay.
in the pupil, you have dark in the eye, the brows, you have dark under the
Yeah.
nose, and a little bit in the mouth. I think you could have more dark in the, like if we look at the reference, right? Much more dark in the beard under here. Like, look at how
Okay.
dark that is. Like that's,
Yeah.
let me turn him black and white too. So they're similar, right? So then
Yes. Wow.
we can actually grab the value down here of this beard and then
Yes.
paint it
Goodness.
and
Okay.
apply it to here. Look how dark it is,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
right? And in here, right?
Yeah, you
That's
see
pretty
on
close.
the reference, it's kind of on the reference, his beard and his hair, the shadow of his hair kind of goes into one, whereas
Yeah.
mine is a specific line.
hmm
Okay.
Yeah.
Many good tips. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, I'd say other than that, it's pretty nice. I would work on. I'm just seeing this now. The area here in where the hairline meets the head, you can see there's a nice little
Yes.
mid-tone right there,
Yeah.
and right here.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a beautiful transition between hair and skin, and here it's like a really hard
Yeah.
edge you have,
Yeah.
and
Hard
it makes
edge.
it
Yeah.
it that makes it feel like a wig. Like it makes it feel like it's like
Yes,
this
it
thing that's
does.
just planted on top. Hair
Yes.
moves, hair goes into the skin. It inserts into the flesh of the person. And so
Yeah.
that's what makes that midtone. It's like actually the follicles of the hair, like changing the color of the skin as you're seeing it insert into the scalp right here. That's what makes this
Oh,
little
okay.
nice little midtone, right? You're seeing the separation of the hair, you're seeing the skin underneath, right?
Yeah, I thought it was just because it was the video that I took a still of the
hmm
video, that it was kind of too fuzzy or too blurry.
hmm
And so what I did was obviously I put my intellect into it instead of
hmm
my feeling into it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, his face could actually be slendered by adding a shadow right here, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, you see this right here? It's like
Yeah.
this angle that he has on his face. And
Yeah,
you've
my one looks so angry.
Yeah, this midtone you've placed here, this little rectangle,
Yeah.
I think it's this shadow of the beard needs to come up and like really sculpt his face more, like really
Okay.
kind of cut in the cheekbone and the
Yeah.
jawline. And you see how if I just
Yes, I see now. Yeah. Yeah,
this
yeah,
is
yeah.
really
I
this is
see
a
it. Yeah.
drastic dark color, but like you can see how that really just like chisels his face in. And
Yes.
then the
No, I
same thing on
see.
this side too, kind of cutting in, carving in, and you can see how
Okay.
much thinner he starts to look.
Yes. Yes,
That's
yes,
where
yes.
people hold their fat is in their cheeks usually. So if you end up
Yes.
making too round, you cut it in, right? You push that in with some dark, then it'll start to sculpt his face in a little more.
Yeah, it's like us ladies with our blusher.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Good.
looking at it like this, it definitely makes more sense.
Yeah.
And with
Yeah.
you obviously pointing it out. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Glad it helped.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Let's see what else we got here. We got a couple more we're gonna do. Where's the one I just saw? I just downloaded it. Some of these didn't work.
The next one looks like the little yacht on the background, and then there's
Yeah,
a little birdie.
yeah. The one from Jazz and the one from Mark, your file didn't work. I don't know why it's coming. It's not downloading for some reason. It's like, and I can't even see it actually. It's just like a gray rectangle on the chat box. Um, oh, yeah, there he downloaded it again. Okay, there it is. This one. Okay. I think this is the one, Mark, correct?
Yeah, that's mine right there. Yeah.
Okay.
What's up, guys? Stay tuned.
Hey, thanks for joining and thanks for showing your art. So, I can see what you're trying to get to, since you have the reference photo here. This is cool. Um, very challenging again, especially in this perspective. So I think the very common thing to do in a drawing like this is to our brains, it flattens things out. So on the picture, you can see you know, the bridge is moving away from us, and it's kind of like a little shorter, and it's moving into the picture. When we draw it, a lot of times our brain just like will stretch things out and flatten them and make them feel like we're looking at them straight on. And so one of the first things you can look at is the angle from here to here and the angle from here to here, right? You can see how let me use a color that we can see,
Yeah, it's a
right?
good point.
You can see the slope, right? This is a higher, like, it's a bigger hill to climb than this, right? So you're flattening it, you're making it more horizontal, you're looking at it straight on. It's as if you instead of standing right here in this photo, you like walked over here and you're standing here and looking at it like that, right? Um, eh, like I don't know why we do it, but it's for some reason it's a very common thing with people when they're first learning how to draw. It's probably because it's challenging to see how this actually works. One of the ways that I see this shape is by drawing a ribbon. I know you guys probably hear me talk about ribbons a lot on my social media content, but though it's a thick ribbon, right? This is a ribbon, right? It goes this way, curves up, right? The ribbon, right? There's some thickness and there's some
Oh, that's really
stones and stuff
smart.
on it,
That's really smart, man. I
right?
see what you did there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you're seeing the top, right? This is the top, the steps looking up, and then you're seeing the underside. So the ribbon is just folding over like that. And if you capture that, you got like 90% of the bridge drawn. Then it's about just adding right, you add the width of the ribbon. So now the ribbon has this little like box in the front. It has a side, right? And now this ribbon has thickness to it, but it's still the same thing, right? It's just a ribbon with thickness. There's the bridge. You
Yeah, I
start with
see that.
this, right? You draw that first, then you work on the stones and the details and these, this cool little patterning and stuff like that. I think most of the time when we draw this in the beginning phases, we're like, you know, maybe you drew this line, you know, you drew like the little stones and things like that. But really, if we see this shape, right, this shape doing this, right, see how much shorter it gets too. That's a big thing as well as you're stretching it out. Like your bridge goes like here, right? It's much smaller than that in the picture because you're
Yeah, I see
looking,
what you did. Yeah.
yeah, you're looking down it, so it's shrinking as things go into perspective and they move away from you, right? They shrink as they get further away from you, and you're seeing less and less of it as it gets further away from you. When you stretch it like this, you're forcing us to see more of the side than we can actually see. And you can
Mhm.
see how these bricks here, you've drawn these bricks the same as these bricks over here. But that's not possible because these are way further away. They're like nearly the
You
same
just spoke on
size.
that. Yeah.
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 So when we zoom in on the picture here, right, these bricks way over here, they're much smaller. They're harder to see. They're harder to like actually describe and understand. There's less detail on them. And then the ones over here we can like see very clearly. So that's another indication of how it should be drawn too. So the things that get further away receive less detail. The things that get closer have more detail. And when we do that, it'll create that atmospheric perspective of something getting further and further away. Um,
Yes.
so that'll be really helpful too. So the main
Um,
structure, go ahead. You have a question?
the shadowing. No, no, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Actually, go ahead. I know what you're trying to
Um,
say.
yeah, you were going to talk about the shadowing, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
the stripe on the steps. I mean, I went horizontal with that.
mhm.
You think I should went vertical on those, and then also the water. How do I do water? You know,
Yeah.
that was tough.
Yeah, yeah. So the best way to take on the goal of this water is to look at the value. So when you're working black and white, so might as well just turn the picture black and white. It'll help you. Because when we don't, all these beautiful colors get in our, it's kind of like a shiny object, like, whoa, I don't know how to get through all this information. When you reduce the amount of information by bringing it to black and white, it makes us able to see like what's happening more. So instantly I see this dark shape. That's one dark shape. And then I see a light shape on top, right? And then I see this as lighter, right? So this part's lighter. So I start to break this up into patterns of light and dark. The water is really just a dark shape, and then look, there's a reflection right here. So
Yeah,
this whole thing is just really dark, and this whole area is really dark. And then you have this kind of thing. So instead of thinking like, oh, how do I draw the water? I have to make little ripples, or I have to like, add these little details of the
yeah,
water.
yeah.
It's really just light and dark. That's what's going to make
I
this look
see.
like water. And so one of the things you do is like these plants, right? These plants sticking in front, these are much lighter than the water. And so you'd have those kind of sticking forward to separate the two. It is
Do I
it's a,
just use the paper, the white paper, to do the plant? No.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd
Okay.
leave the white paper showing through and then you draw
Okay.
around it. Um, if you're going to like use cross hatching or like hatching of any kind where you're using lines rather than large value
Hmm.
shapes,
Hmm.
I would keep your lines horizontal as best you can on water because water lays flat and perpendicular,
Yeah.
right? Perpendicular line facing up, right? So that's how you describe it, kind of facing upward. So if you were to shade this all in, I would use horizontal lines best I could. Now you talked about the step here. Um, so the light is, it looks like the light is actually coming in like kind of straight on like this. And so the front facing plane, this part, is getting lit up more than the top. So that means that this part is
Yeah.
getting light hit more, and the light up here is like grazing the top. It's like skittering across the top. So you can see here on this plane, you have it's just a long box, right? It's a
Yeah.
staircase. And so you have direct light and you have like a halftone light in here. So honestly, I would leave this as the paper. This whole area I wouldn't touch. And then this area I would hatch like this, like these diagonal lines.
Got it.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so it would follow this line here, this edge. Let me make this a little smaller. So this edge here and this edge, that's the direction that I would hatch. I would use that line over and over like that.
Yeah, I've learned that from watching doing some of your tutorials and listening to some of your reels and such. And I
Yeah,
learned that okay, the lines need to follow it. And back when I did this was a couple of months ago when I just joined the group, and so I started learning a lot and started changing things like that on newer stuff.
yep,
I don't have my sketchbook with me, so I took this one with the sketch I had in my truck, a little book that I have. So I just wanted to share it with the team and get some input on it. But yeah,
yeah,
you shared a lot. That's great. I like the way you did the black and white though too. Just like you've done on the previous ones, it really shows you what's light, what's dark.
yeah. Definitely, yeah.
Cool, Sean.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see how when I put those lines on there like that, when I zoom out on it, it adds to that a little bit, even on the picture. It like makes
Yeah, I
it really
made it
feel
pop.
like, yeah, it makes it feel like, I mean, the red helps a lot because it's against the black, but like it just makes us feel like it's, it's solid. It's all consistently the same plane. It's facing up. Um, and so in here, you kind of shaded the front of the steps. I would leave that as paper and then shade the top of the steps. And then, if you get into shading on this thing, right, this is the front that's facing the light, and then this is the dark that gets wrapped around. So this part would get light or dark, right? Like this, you can see here,
Got it.
separates. So that's what we want to look at when we're drawing this. Drawing anything is separating the lights from darks, right? Especially when we go black and white like this, we can really see, right? This this beautiful shape that we're talking about, the ribbon, it, it's it's described by the pattern of light and dark. Light, dark, right? It's facing away from the light, it's facing towards the light. Light's coming in this way. So it's just catching some of that light under there. And then up here, starting to face this way. Right. So you just ask yourself, what's facing towards the light and what's not? Right. It's all facing away, it's all shadow. And so this you could just do vertical lines along the whole thing to darken it.
Cool. I was gonna ask that too. How do we do that?
Yeah. Yeah, same thing as before. Like I was talking about it earlier, like it's kind of like you're creating like these notches along as it gets further and further away. And it creates more depth that way. Yeah.
All right, so those lines just space out wider as they get closer and then tighter as you get further
You
away.
you could do that, yeah. Like you could make them kind of further away and then tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter as it gets further away. What that'll do though also is it'll make it darker back here. And so we're not sure if we want that because it actually is darker up here. So you have higher
That's
contrast
true.
up here.
True.
So you probably need like two passes of lines. You need lines this way and then maybe some cross hatching going this way to darken it. Um, but if I were shading this, I would probably make all of my lines, all my first set of lines, be very consistent spacing. Like I would try to keep them, see the spacing here is pretty much the same. I try to keep the spacing the same like a metronome, just tick, 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 perfect.
Sean,
And
it's a good point there. Sorry to interrupt you, but
go ahead.
if I look at the photo before I start drawing it and understand where the dark contrast is at before I get into it, then I kind of have a little guidance. So when I get wild, start sketching really quick and such, then I can kind of see, all right, this area is already going to be darker.
Yeah, yeah, definitely,
That's
yeah,
good.
yeah, yep, yeah. I think that's good
Cool, man.
tips.
Thanks, dude. Yeah,
You're
I'm
welcome.
not uploading that one for the team. But
Cool.
I appreciate all the comments and good or bad. I'm tough skin. I can take it.
Good. Yeah, it's all about learning.
Thanks, team.
All right, so we got Bob here, I think. This is Bob. Yeah, Bob. Um, let's get into it. So we have a landscape painting of a boat in the the windy water here. It's nice. Do you want to tell us about it before I go into it, Bob?
Well, for me, it was a study of how to keep the wispiness of the clouds that did see some sunlight as opposed to the dark.
Hmm.
And I focused on that a whole lot more during the painting. And now that I've been listening to you and I look at the sails and go, oh, I need a whole lot more going in there and on the hull of the boat as well. It's to me now when I look at it, it looks like the boat was just like a what do you call it? Come on, brain. Uh, something that was just laid on top of the painting as opposed
Yeah,
to
it like an afterthought kind of.
yeah, yeah. And so and I can't find the reference photo, but the reference photo really had these huge, brilliant reds that showed up all over the place
Hmm.
in the water. And most of the time when you see, I don't know if this is a sunrise or sunset, but most of the time when you see those, it changes the further away it gets from it. And this
Hmm.
particular shot, it didn't. Everything throughout the painting the red was the same color red. It didn't
Yeah, glowed.
vary. Yeah.
Cool.
So to me, it was difficult to get the sun because, you know, you generally want, you know, grading
Yeah.
around that. So, but yeah, when you turn it black and white, to me now, uh, it's you can still see a lot of contrast.
Hmm.
I think it shows up the
Yeah.
the clouding in the background where it's kind of wispy. The upper clouds kind of lose their shape in black and white.
Hmm.
So, you
That's okay, I
know,
think. I think because of the way that you're using the color, I think it's okay to lose a little bit more. I think it's supposed to be like in a sunset scene like this, the value range is pretty narrowed because the sun is starting to get softer or whatever, sunset,
right,
sunrise, whatever it is. It's not like the brightest part of the day, and also you have lots of cloud coverage. It's hard
right.
to say exactly, but um, I'd say that the value structure is decent. Like you said, though, I think the boat does
Yeah,
stick out because it's like the sun is
yeah,
over here, and so you would only mostly be seeing the shadow side of the boat.
right.
And so even though these sails are white, they probably would still be darker than this. And so I think that if you took the boat and just made it darker, and for the most part, just overall darker,
Yeah,
it'd probably read better. And then you'd probably
okay.
have some kind of like little, you know, rim lighting around it where you're starting to see the light side of it in some way.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can do this without ruining it too much. But right, if we
Oh,
dark,
yeah.
especially the bottom here where it hits the
Yeah,
water,
yeah,
we start to darken it a little more and more. 'Cause like you said, it's kind of like just sticking there. It's like a sore
yeah,
thumb. It's taking too much of our attention from the beauty of the color and everything else.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so
That definitely,
maybe like see how when it doesn't take as much of
yeah,
our attention away, it doesn't quite feel out
right.
of place. Um, Now as far as the color, like if we were to go back to this, I'm not sure exactly what color that would end up making it. I could take the same
Well,
color and just
the sails appeared in the photo to be almost transparent because the red from the sun was, you know, shining through the sails.
Mhm.
And so it's like, yeah,
Yeah, that'd be really hard to paint, I'm sure. And you if it does feel like an afterthought, then you can even ask yourself, does it even belong in there? And would the painting be good without it? Like it, I know you're going with
yeah,
reference, but if you can't quite land the boat
yeah,
the way it's supposed to, what if you just removed it entirely? Would the painting still be as beautiful? I think it probably would be because the focal point for
yeah,
me is the sun and
the
the
sun.
reflection and that beautiful radiating orange that happens.
Yeah,
So maybe the boat doesn't necessarily need to be there.
yeah.
Could be the
Okay.
case. Um,
Yeah,
could be a
I
different
see.
painting though too. So, and
Yeah,
then the sun itself, I think looks actually pretty good. I like how you use like a really warm white color. It's not white, right? It's not like
right.
you didn't just take the white out of the tube and go like this. Like that doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. You kept it really yellow and warm.
Yeah,
I think you probably could do a little bit of softening around the edges.
yeah. Okay.
Let's see, take this color here and that's too much. Take this color. That's too little now. And then if we zoom out a little bit, see it starts to have more of a glowing kind of
Yeah,
effect. And if I get closer in here, smaller shape, I think it's just this side on the left. It's kind of
yeah.
cutting,
It's
not
not
quite
round.
not quite as round as the other parts, yeah.
Yeah,
And so if you start to soften the edges and have it transition into the warm, because even if we stare at it with our own eyes,
right.
risk going blind, it still isn't quite a sharp edge, right?
Yeah, yeah. I get you.
There's this softness to it. See how when we zoom out now on that, it kind of
Yeah,
just has like this quality to it that's a little, because the rest of the painting is really soft too, so I think it
yeah,
helps. So if we remove that,
Are you guys done? Cool. Thanks, man.
go back and forth. Yeah, that feels a little bit better. Yeah, so
I
I'd
just
say
admitted it.
honestly, just
Yep.
fixing the roundness of that would probably, and
Right.
softening the edge a little bit, I think that would really make it kind of ring in a better way.
Yeah, I could redo it without the boat. That would be a
Yeah,
challenge.
yeah, it'd be good practice too.
I was surprised when I looked at it in black and white because the last time I did the still of the vases, I don't know if you remember,
Yeah,
and
I do.
when you put it in black and white, there was no difference in the tone values.
Yeah,
It was all pretty much the same. So here, I think I think the values are still there when you put it in black and white. You
yeah,
still
that's
see
good.
the hard contrast because that's what stood out to me was some of those hard lines. And even though the clouds were black or pretty close to it, uh, they didn't have typically when you have clouds with the sun behind it, you've got the halo effect around the edge of the
Mm.
clouds. These didn't have it. That's what
Okay.
drew me to the picture to begin with, was that,
Interesting. Yeah.
wow, there's no light on these dark clouds that are really close to the sun.
Yeah, no
And then
silver lining.
as you get away, the clouds were more wispy and they did show the reflection of so it was kind of a
Yeah. Yeah, I like
and
that there
I
isn't those lines. I think it helps. Right, if it
yeah,
had those little, yeah, I don't like that.
yeah,
Yeah, no, this is really cool. I think you did much better with the value structure this time too. Like you really are going into the darks. Like you weren't as afraid of going into dark color.
yeah,
And though the oranges are fairly light compared to the dark, they're still in the mid-tone range. And then you have this, you like restrained from using this value of the sun everywhere.
yeah,
And you would have killed the painting if you did that because nothing could be as bright as the sun if you're looking right at it, right? So that's
right,
what makes this really feel like it's like it feels like a sun because everything else around it is dark. That's how you paint that is you just
yeah.
keep everything dark. So yeah, good job.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Mhm. All right, we're back on these flowers. Nobody has claimed yet. Looking through, I don't see. Oh, I see a bird now. Let me do the bird real quick. Is this Sarah? No, it's not. Jazz. Nice. Little crow, little baby crow or something. Um, Jazz, are you in here? Do you want to say something about it before I jump in?
And no, I just really appreciate you and your work in this class. It's really awesome.
Cool. So is this an oil painting?
No, it's acrylic.
Acrylic? Okay, cool. I like the way that you're using the texture. It's really fun. I love when paint takes on a quality beyond just color. Like the application, especially like down here, it's like that you're scrubbing the paint on, and I can see the paintbrush strokes, and it's really nice. The transparencies is really cool. I really love when paint does that. And you're not afraid to kind of make it look messy because it's part of the style. It's not messy though, right? It's like it, if you looked at one little area, you'd be like, oh, that's messy. But then you look at the whole thing and it makes sense. So that's good. Um, I definitely get the sense that this is like a baby crow because the puffiness of the feathers kind of coming off of it. A fully grown crow, they're much more slick, right? They're shiny and reflective. Um, uh, Baby birds have the kind of like these very fluffy feathers that don't really have a direction yet. They kind of just, or they just kind of poof out. I'm not sure. Is it a baby crow? I don't know. That's what I'm reading it as.
It actually wasn't really a baby crow, but
Oh, okay.
I
Well,
like the crows when they look kind of hairy and kind of wild, and so I just kind of like thought
yeah,
like that. But I
yeah.
get what you're saying.
Okay. Well, that's how I read it that because of the proportions and well, the beak is kind of like a fully grown crow because it's so long. Baby crow would be have a much smaller beak. But yeah, either way, it just has that puffiness, and I like that. Um, so when a painting has a very unique style and it looks very intentional, it's harder for me to critique as far as like what I think should be better in this way or that way because I'm kind of saying is like I wish your style was different, and I don't wish your style was different. I wish it was the way it is. I really like the way it looks. Um, the only thing that kind of just throws me off is the angle of the legs here, like this and like this.
Mm.
For me, just those two angles with the angles of the rest of the image it it kind of just, I don't know why, it just gives me like a an uneasy feeling. And I'm not sure if that uneasy feeling is part of it and it should be like that, or if it's an uneasy feeling unintentionally. Either way, I think that there's something happening in this leg. I think it's this front one. Or actually, that would be the back leg. So this would be the front leg, I think, because this side's closer. Either case, there's something happening where it might be that it's too long and it's reaching forward as much as this one. So maybe if it was like back here and it stopped like here, it'd feel more like there'd be more depth to it. Like it's kind of standing off the side, right? And so this leg is kind of coming forward more. And there's like this perspective happening right here. Um, but yeah, like I said, I think that when paintings are like this and they like when I look at the painting, everything kind of has like a unified style. And if I were to say, well, the head should be bigger, it really will change the painting drastically when you make a change like that, especially with the feeling of the painting. Um, Let me see. So another thing that I always do with paintings, right? Go black and white. So because the color of the background is really bright and the bird is very desaturated, so you have a really large contrast and saturation. It's literally like it's like a black paint, right? So going black and white, we get to remove that brightness of the blue and we get to see what the value of that blue is doing with the painting. And it makes you ask the question, well, what if the blue was a lighter blue? What would happen, right? If this background was um, if the background was lighter, how would the bird pop in a different way? Let me just select the bird real quick, like really quick, and then select inverse. As we lighten around it, how does the composition change? So these are just questions that I could ask, like, what happens when we lighten everything around it? The painting changed quite drastically from that, from here to here, here to here, right here to here. I don't know if it's a better change. I'm not, it's hard, like again, it's hard to say. Is it better or is it just different? These are the kind of questions that you could ask for the next one. Like what happens if I push the value contrast as well as the color contrast? And so now if I go back to here, actually let me do this and go, oh, I can't go back yet. Hold on. Back here like this, and then select. Okay, now lighten this. So it lightens the color as well a little bit. Maybe the floor plane would be a little
Yeah,
darker.
and have any shadow. Bottom.
Yeah, the shadow down here would be darker. So you have a dark, now you're separating the values this way like this. So you have right, now you have
Shadow
a
blue.
rectangle at the bottom and then a large square of blue. So you've separated it this way now. And you can see how when we're like this, right, these values, these blue and this brown are similar, very similar value. Let's see, where's the original hue saturation change? I don't have it anymore. Um, so another compositional idea, right? Long rectangle, big square, bird in the middle. Three elements, large, medium, small, kind of makes the composition slightly, I don't know, maybe it could be more interesting that way. It also makes the bird really pop more from here to there, right? So yeah, the contrast just pops more. Again, I'm not sure. Is it better or is it just different? Hard to say with a style like this. But it's an experiment
Sure.
that can be made on the next one or in the next iteration. I think if we go back to here and we desaturate this, right? This is your painting just desaturated.
Yeah, it's
You
interesting. Things.
you can see how the background blue and the foreground shadow are the same, right? The only thing that separates it is this here, that line. I think it would be cool if this separated through this whole shape was a different value instead. And then that would really make, right, like I said before, it changes the composition when you have this, have a darker rectangle. Right? The abstract elements of the painting divide up a little bit. I think a little more interestingly, maybe. I don't know if you could agree with that or not. Um, I don't think I'm not sure if you're talking, but I can't quite hear you. I think you're cutting out, maybe.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Nope, can't hear you
Yeah, no,
anymore.
I like that.
Yeah, you liked it. You like
Hopefully,
the rectangle? Okay, good. I
uh,
heard that part.
yeah, I appreciate the opportunity of that.
Hmm. Good. You're cutting in and out while you're talking, so I'm getting little bits of it, but I think you're just sharing appreciation for the comments. Yeah, so that's just the thoughts that I have. I really like this blue. I love that color blue. And I think that even just taking this here and darkening
Mm,
just a little bit like that makes a nice separation
uh,
between the two. Yeah, the blue's
I'm
nice.
on my hot spot and it just cut out,
Okay.
but I got it.
Yeah, I think you're back for a moment. Um, yeah, other than that, I wouldn't really change much else. I think I really like your style. I think you should do a bunch of these, do 20 of them, do 30 of them and see how you can push these boundaries a little bit more. Think about the overall composition. How can I break up like, there's subject and there's background. How can I separate or break up the background into more interesting shapes, or I mean, just more shapes in general with the value as well as the color. You're doing it very easily with the color. Like I said earlier, it's very easy to do with color. Bright colors are very easy to contrast with each other. If you do color and value shifts, the drama becomes more apparent. The reading of it becomes more apparent, especially at a distance when we zoom back on it a lot and we look at the original, right, the values the background starts to blend more and more together. Um, and when we have that darker part, it just separates those planes more. Okay,
That's great. I appreciate that.
cool. All right. Well, it looks like I think that's going to be the last one for the day. I'm looking through. I don't see any other ones that I haven't done yet. I think. I hope. But we have been going for quite a while. We're approaching our third hour here. I think we're at 2.5 hours right now. So that's a good amount of time. I think after that, you start to kind of lose information rather than retain it, um, as more and more comes into the brain. So
Thank you so much, Sean.
you're very
Good,
welcome.
good day.
Yeah, it was a lot of really good information today. A lot of good questions, a lot of good artwork to look at. Like I
Good
said
job, man.
earlier,
Thanks, everybody. It was cool.
yeah, thank you, Mark, for coming.
Thanks, Sean.
Like I said earlier, the community just broke 50,000 members, which is really, really cool. It's a huge kind of milestone for the community. So I put out a discount code for the figure drawing course if you guys want to pick that up and you haven't started it yet. The figure drawing course goes over the gesture, proportions, constructive anatomy, goes into a little bit of like more physiological anatomy a little bit, but it's mostly just how do the shapes look and how do you see them as you draw them. And then it goes into portraiture, hands, all that stuff. So it's all included in that course. And it's 60% off for the members of the community. So if you go to the announcement tab of the community, there's a link there. You can click on that. It'll bring you to it. Other than that, appreciate you guys showing up, sharing your art. A lot of people are afraid to do that. So just by doing it, you're asking the right questions just by being here, and you're aiming to get better, which is always the goal. So thank you for doing that, and I will see you guys next week, every Saturday, 9 a.m. Pacific.
Thanks, Sean.
Yep. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I just joined the drawing community right
Hmm.
now because I found
Yeah.
the link finally in my emails.
Okay.
Because I mostly draw on Procreate, but outside of that, would you recommend drawing on a pencil and paper, or what would you recommend?
Yeah, any kind of drawing that you do will help the others. So if you draw in Procreate, it'll help you with your paper drawing. The difference is the texture of the paper and the texture of the glass, right? The way that the stylus works is just a different feel.
Yeah.
But the concepts in your mind will retain and transfer over. So like if you learn how to draw an eye, you're going to know in your mind how to draw an eye. And so those things transfer over into different mediums no matter what. No matter what, I would say is just draw more, right? So if you have paper, you don't have your iPad with you, you have a little pocket sketchbook that you went out, you're waiting somewhere for somebody at a restaurant because they're late. You have a sketchbook in your pocket, you're sitting there waiting for your table, pop it out instead of popping out your phone and scrolling, right? Take out your sketchbook and draw the hostess, right? You know, it's okay to be that guy, right?
Yeah.
If they ask you, "Oh, I'm an artist. Here, I drew you." Isn't that cool? Right? They usually
Yeah.
are pretty happy about it.
All
So
right.
any opportunity that you can, I always like to say, and Sturmett actually, he was here earlier, he liked to say this too, like the urge to grab your phone and like do this, right? Try to shift that from phone to sketchbook. And if we did that, like imagine how much more drawing we would do, because I know we all do it. We all sit on our phone and scroll. It's right, it's super addictive. If you could just try to shift that over, just have your sketchbook next to your phone instead and just grab that and do some doodling. The more you draw, the better you're going to get. And that's for all of you guys here. The more that you do it, the better you're going to get. If you do an hour a week now and you go to 2 hours a week, you're literally going to level up twice as fast. That's just how it works. You double your time into the skill, you get double back as a return. So whether it's Procreate or on a piece of paper with a pen, you're going to be learning. It's all going to transfer over no matter what.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Have a great day, guys. Get out there and draw something today. Have some fun. Go create something really cool and then share it with somebody. All right. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.